5 on my list to go down and 4 to go up.
I've got 7 mixed, so probably reasonably similar teams.
Yes, I have one that is actually could go either way.
Oh, okay, that looks pretty cool. So that should.
I've got the nickel, by the way.
I don't know which one I need to stay in for that to work.
Do you want your nickel back at the end?
Okay.
And they say that... that's actually Chad Kroger on his own, isn't it? That's not Nickelback. This is how you remind me of what I really am.
Where do I get my stream thing?
Tune in for NFL coverage with Si.
I will do that again on the pod if you need me to.
Right, let me just try this link in my phone. Oh man, I thought this should be just simple stream link. This is exciting. I'm kind of pumped by it now. Okay, RTMP.
I can hear the masses just like
clamoring.
It's 2 minutes past. Where's the link? God damn it! Apparently it's Vince McMahon. God damn it, Austin.
/live. Okay, I just don't know where the link is, guys. That's just, I don't even know how you... Right, let me try.
Here's the other thing. Are we swearing or no swearing?
I'm going to go with try not to, but if you do, we're not going to stop it.
I suppose just because we're streaming live, and it's going to be like 3 p.m. on the East Coast, 12 p.m. on the Pacific side. So
yeah, I'd say try not to.
Keep my motherfuckers down to a minimum.
Manage.
Nickelback are clean, mate. So
how do I? I just don't know how to find the link. This is unfortunate because this is basically just this is all we need, and then it's absolutely fine.
So has it created a link on your YouTube?
So I'm currently streaming like a dream right now.
So can't we go to your YouTube and just copy the link at the top? I don't know.
Basically, just go F40, capital F 40 Rubik's, capital R UBIX.
Okay.
Well, I pop a cream soda open. There might literally just be the link at the top.
That was way too quick, but capital F.
F40.
Got the F.
F40.
Yeah.
Or was it Rubik's?
Rubik's.
Oh, yeah.
And then is the live on there? And then can you see what I see, which is basically a strip of our face. You've got the PFF mock at the bottom and then a shutdown cover icon to the right.
Oh, I didn't get a nickel. Got a quarter.
And then when people are ready, when we've got 1,000 listeners, what we'll do is we'll just dive into it with aggression. I'm going to pour myself some cream soda while the masses arrive for shutdown coverage. NFL live. And we're going to do...
Send me the link. I might be able to bash out a quick one on Facebook.
That link is in the chat that Ed has posted.
Come on, Simon.
God, Simon.
What? There's no chat. What chat? Oh,
in Zencaster chat.
Oh, what?
Some people can't work with them.
It's right in front of me. Oh, come on.
Right in front of your head.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Right, let me just bash this out quick. Oh, shit. This is how you remind me.
Okay, so we will basically go. I think we go live at 8:10.
Mm-hmm.
Ed,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
good stuff.
I've got a tweet up ready, so I'll just send that out when.
Yeah, so we'll go live in 3 minutes. That gives everyone a little bit of time just to relax, because this is live. This is YouTube. This is what happens.
It's crazy.
Fucking is, man.
We've got Chad Kroger. Yeah, it's just mental. Don't know why I'm encouraging it, but I am.
Yeah, it's because you bloody love it, mate. That's why.
Now, basically, I am super excited and ready for this. It looks good. Everything sounds good. I'm hoping the sync is bang on.
The video is unavailable. Does that sound right?
No.
We're not live, so isn't that correct?
No, we are live now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, honestly,
That.
basically we are. That's what you look like. That is what you look like. You see how I've put myself into the corner, just off into the distance, because those boxes are representative of NFL knowledge.
Yeah.
Nobody puts Benny in the corner.
Nobody puts Benny in the corner. So okay, we're doing well here.
Yeah, slick, mate. You're slick.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Come on, baby.
The people will wait. They know it's good.
Trevor Lawrence first pick. Oh no, wait, last year. Wait a minute. Oh God, I've got the wrong notes. I saw Jacksonville.
Right, I've posted it. Shit.
Okay, minute and a half. You beautiful people.
I might even post it on my own Facebook page.
Yeah, post it away. Post it
Yeah,
away.
I'm going to do that in a minute. I'm just waiting for us to actually start, and then when I'm not talking, I'll quickly.
Well, do you know what? Let's jump the
Is anyone hear
gun.
me?
How about we get into it, yeah?
Yep, fine by me.
Send some links away. We'll keep silent until you get those links on.
Okay. Well, I've tweeted, so that's the main thing. I'll do everything else in the background.
Oh, yes. Sexy picture of me. Going like that. Well, I've got no teeth.
Okay, we're going to start recording on Zencast in about 30 seconds. So bear in mind that's going to be live pod, so you can drop that onto your shutdown coverage. I will edit that tonight, and then I'll email you that in the morning.
We might just need to remember to try and not be completely, for the podcast listeners, not be too visual. Not be
Yeah,
oh, look there.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. But
going
they'll
on?
know the other PF. That's amazing.
Right, I'm ready to post when you are. I posted.
Yeah, so we've been live 11 minutes. It's 9 minutes and 11 seconds, it says. Can you see the actual link on your phone as well?
I can't copy it, but I can see it. For some reason, I can't copy it. I don't know why.
Oh, I can copy it. I've copied it several times. Just
Can you
copy
send it?
away.
Can you send it on Signal, mate, so I can grab it off there?
Fuck's
Yeah.
sake. Yeah. Oh shit, we're not supposed to swear.
It's set as not for children, but listen, I mean, there may be...
Not for children, but listen.
Yeah, okay.
But listen anyway.
So it's not for children. I've got my highlighter. We're going to get going here. Start recording on Zencaster. Good evening, YouTube. It's that time of year again. The mighty NFL draft is only a day away. And Shutdown Coverage is here with a special YouTube live edition. Hundreds and thousands will be following, I'm sure. We will be previewing the entire first round of tomorrow's NFL draft in Las Vegas. Let's get straight into some introductions before we all sort of get a little bit too excited. Cy is raring to go already. I am Ben. I've been wrangled in Texas style to guide tonight's proceedings. And with me, we have the enigmatic, enthralling, electric duo from the Shutdown Coverage podcast, Simon and Ed. Congratulations. Woo! Simon, let's come to you first. How excited are you to be on YouTube Live right now? Let's talk in draft.
Well, I mean, we've done loads of pods, but this is my first time actually having my face broadcast for the masses. So I might have to regulate what my face is doing while other people are making picks and stuff like that, and try and be a little less disgusting than I would be if it was audio only, I suppose. So yeah, looking forward to it, man. I mean, this is awesome. So people probably don't know, but I have a podcast with Ben and I have a podcast with Ed. So Ed and I do Shutdown Coverage, which is this very nicely been mentioned about by Ben there. So Shutdown Cover on Twitter and Instagram. But I'm also working with Ben on a podcast as well called The Last Wednesday of the Week, Wednesday Pod on Twitter and on Instagram, I believe. So I kind of feel like a polygamist who's trying to bring his two families that don't really know much about each other together to live under one house. Loving life. And really looking forward to getting our teeth into the draft.
This is so exciting. I've literally got on my side a cream soda, a raspberry aid, because I went for a couple of American-style drinks. I don't even know if they're American. Ed, the all-knowing oracle of NFL, you've got a lot of pressure tonight to carry me through a few of these picks, but how are you feeling?
So basically, I've watched it the longest. That is the reason I am the
Yes.
oracle, because I've watched it the longest. Super excited. I mean, I'm less excited about my hairline looking at you two, but there we go. But no, I'm really excited actually. Yeah, like Sai said, we've done lots of episodes together, but actually, doing it live is really fun. It's exciting. A little nervy. But mock drafts are perhaps the best or second best part of the NFL year. Mock drafts are amazing. Everyone has their opinion. They're loads of fun, and can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, well, we'll get into it pretty soon. The actual draft itself is going to have some extra glitz and glam, as it will be hosted for the very first time in Las Vegas, Nevada, home of the Las Vegas Strip and cast of Ocean's 11, I believe. Tonight, the invited prospects will be working with local school, apparently. I heard they're doing a bit of the PR work, that classic build up the environment, build up the area. We've got 7 rounds, 262 prospects, but we are focusing today on tomorrow's first round only. Simon, this is the most important day in the NFL off-season calendar. And I think that's fair to say. I just echo what Ed said there. Why, Simon? Why is it all important?
So, and just go what you were saying earlier, I'm wearing my Bears jersey. I bought a football, and you can see how tiny my hands are. I barely fit around the thing. So I'm not going to play quarterback anytime soon. I'm probably still better than most of the quarterbacks in this draft, though. Also, because we're going to be doing a coin toss, I've got a quarter that we can do the coin toss with. So I'm very excited. But yeah, go back to what you said, Ben. Really, really exciting times. It's just the time of year where there's parity. Everyone has hope. Whatever the 32 teams you are, you have hope. Whether you're as perennially terrible as the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Chicago Bears, or, continually successful as the Packers or the Chiefs or someone like that, you're all level. There's no one's a winner so far. Patriots have been terrible for
It started early.
Yeah, just really, really, everyone's happy. We're all excited. We all think we're going to get the best player in the draft.
Obviously.
And then a year goes by and we find out they've been injured or just been terrible. Because that's the problem. There's about a 50% bust rate in the first round. It's insanely high. So, but it is. It's an awesome day. The glitz and the glamour. Just really excited. Even though for us in the UK, it means a very, very late few nights, really. I mean, I know some of the third day is live at a reasonable time, but it goes on late. And the first 2 days are on at prime time, which for us Brits is slightly worse for wear anyway.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we all think we're going to get the best draft prospect, and sometimes we end up with Justin Fields. You can't have it all, Si, so you've just got to hope for the best. The year's draft, well, as always, Roger Goodell, the man himself, will announce the selections. I've been reading, this is going to be on a stage constructed near the Caesars Forum, okay? I mean, wow, this is going to be exciting. The lucky invitees will be on the red carpet, which I believe will be on a floating stage situated in the famous fountain of the Bellagio Hotel and Casino, albeit I think the rumours have kind of been quashed that there was going to be a floating platform that took the prospects to Roger Goodell. I don't know. I'm expecting something crazy. The Jacksonville Jaguars will be picking for the second consecutive year, rather. They also have the most picks in this year's draft, along with Kansas City Chiefs, 12 picks each. The Miami Dolphins, just 4 picks. However, they were one of the busy teams in what I can only describe as a frenzy of a free agency, Ed. Huge Russell Wilson trade. We've seen that 5-time Pro Bowler Devontae Adams go over to Las Vegas. Von Miller, Amari Cooper, Tyreek Hill. There's heaps of names I'm missing out. Ed, how did you keep up with the free agency alongside a career and a family and life? How was it even possible?
I mean, is it possible? It's a good question. Yeah, I mean, checking my phone 24/7, really. It's been absolutely manic. It is the busiest free agency I've ever known. It proves player power is becoming more a thing in the NFL, especially among quarterbacks, forcing their way out of teams. Russell Wilson, for all the PR things, basically forced his way out of Seattle. Devontae Adams, didn't have to stay with the Packers if he didn't want to. He left. Wide receivers starting to get that kind of power now. We saw that with various players over the offseason, basically saying, if you're not going to pay me absolute tip-top dollar, I'm out of here. No team loyalty. And that's not in a critical sense. That's in the sense of it used to be... Yeah, shots fired already. I'm already on the team bus. But no, it used to be that the teams held a bit more power and could manipulate things a bit more, whereas players are really starting to come into their own now. And I think that shows through the frenzy we've had. And I've never known top-tier quarterback swapping like this. Russell Wilson moving around, like you said. Nobody loses a Hall of Fame quarterback, which I'd argue right now Russell Wilson's going to be, in his prime. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, the trade was blockbuster, one of the biggest trades in the history of the NFL. And I think it's important for us to maybe talk about some trades and a few ideas before we actually get into picking some players in our collective mock draft. Si, echoing what Ed said there, some players do believe they are bigger. I mean, the name that springs to mind at the moment is Debo, and he's refused to he's refusing to stay at the 49ers. Whether he'll just end up being on the bench for the season or not, who knows. But is he going to force through a trade? Are we going to see an incredible trade down from one of the big teams at the top?
I mean, it's really difficult with Deebo Samuel, and I think he is one of the 2 trades that may affect the first round. The other one, I think, well, actually, I suppose 3 really, being Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo, if one of those goes to one of the QB need teams. But keeping on Deebo for the moment anyway, I mean, it's difficult because for a start, the 49ers have no money. They are almost right up against the cap. So they're either going to have to restructure some guys, extend a few guys that and push their money into later years, or cut some people basically. And they've got Nick Bosa's contract to go through as well, and that's going to be, I know he's had a few injuries, but he's going to be wanting to be paid big money. So yeah, it's difficult for the 49ers because I don't think really they're going to get offered major, like blockbuster, to quote what you were saying earlier, value for him as well. Because Deebo Samuel, he's had he's a good player, really good player, but he's had one really good year.
Brilliant season,
yeah.
Si.
But he's had a lot of injuries. He was injured in college as well. So, can he stay healthy? Because that's the thing, you give up 2 first-round picks or a first and a second, and then he's injured for 3/4 of the year. I mean, he's going to make you look silly. So that's the thing that people are going to be aware of. And obviously having to pay him, he wants about $25 million a year. The other interesting thing being he hasn't actually said why he wants to leave. I'm guessing it's because he's been possibly lowballed on deals. Some rumours about the fact that he wants to not be a running back anymore because he does actually have quite a few carries every year. It's about 350 yards carrying the ball last year. So all in all, it's a mess of a situation. It's not what they wanted coming up right to the draft. But, I mean, if someone gives them good value, I think they'll take it. But I just don't know if they A, are giving the right signals out, and B, getting what they really, really want.
Does it feel like an off-the-cuff move, or did he have an idea, where he thought he might get traded to? Does he even think a trade's possible, Ed, or is he simply just pushing for a bigger contract, just flexing his muscles because he had a standout season? For me, he was the most exciting player to watch in the NFL last season. I loved watching him. I think he was exceptionally exciting. Is it going to happen, Ed?
At this point, I would say it seems slightly unlikely. I think it's very much what you said before. It's him flexing his muscles, looking for a big contract. At this point, given the season he's just had, he is chronically underpaid. But as Si mentioned, the problem is the 49ers have exactly $743,000 left of cap. And that is not a lot of money in the NFL. For a player like that, you're probably looking at in the 25 million range. With the wide receiver contracts that have been given out this offseason. So that's a lot of money they've got to free up. And we'll cover this player later. But even if they let go of Jimmy G, which is a thing for later, that's 25 million. They can only just afford him then, and they still can't afford then their draft class. So I don't think he thinks he's going to get traded. I think he's flexed his muscles for a contract. However, I think he also knows the 49ers are in a bit of a tight spot money-wise and that he could potentially get traded. But you've got to be careful what you ask for, because the rumour is he's going to get traded to the Jets for the 10th pick overall. That's the current rumour out there. And now the Jets are putting together a pretty good roster, but traditionally the Jets are terrible. And therefore, do you want to go there, be terrible, lose a lot just for the money, when you could stay at the Niners, probably earn most of the money you'd earn anyway and potentially win? I'm not criticising the Jets. Like I said, I think they're doing a really good job at the moment. This offseason is going really well for the Jets, but they are in a tough division as well. So it's potentially hard if you end up on a team like that.
Yeah, Debo will be involved in trade day, I think. That's my card initially. I think he has a part to play, a part in the story. How that works out, whether it's, Jets 10th pick, whether it's even bigger, whether it's behind the scenes aside, I have a feeling we're going to see some exciting things. But this draft is very different from the last couple of years because obviously the first picks the last couple of years were nailed on. They were already basically wearing the jerseys. This draft, it just feels like absolutely anyone's game. But in terms of those other players that may affect the top of the draft or may affect trades, Baker Mayfield, Si.
Yeah, so I think he is, because there's parts of the draft where there is like key picks. So if a certain team picks a certain way, it could change the way the draft goes. And I think one of the biggest teams for that regard is the Carolina Panthers. Now, we have heard ad nauseum recently about how bad this QB draft is. There are players there who are functional. Some of them have higher ceilings than others, but there's no real standout QB prospect like there has been in previous years. Everyone knew, as you said earlier, everyone knew that Trevor Lawrence was going number one. I mean, it would have been an absolute crazy turn of events for him not. But going back to the Panthers, they really need to get a quarterback, really. But they are, if you look at their coaches, they're all looking for, they're in the last chance saloon, realistically. Another bad year from them, and they're gone. They're in year 3. And with that being the case, are you going to get it done with Sam Darnold? No, probably not. I mean, he's kind of proved that last year, just how bad he was. But, you've also got to, if you get a quarterback this year, are you going to get someone who's going to be able to come in immediately and actively help your roster? I mean, Kenny Pickett, people have said, Desmond Ridder, 2 guys that maybe have high floors, so you put them on the field, they'll at least be functional. Whether they're upgraded to Sam Darnold, possibly, maybe, yeah. But at the same point, there's no guarantees there. So I expect them to try as best they can to kind of trade out of this pick. However, The alternative to that, especially if they can't trade out this pick, because let's be honest, there's no one really that people want to trade up for, especially once the tackles have gone and the edge rushers are gone. So the alternative is Baker Mayfield. He's obviously unhappy with Cleveland. They've signed Deshaun Watson. All the power is with Baker Mayfield in terms of he's on $20 million guaranteed, so he can just sit counting his money. And the Cleveland Browns, it's up to them to really get rid of him. So I would see, they've said first round pick. They can get a first round pick. They could get a fourth round pick. And if I'm the Panthers, they don't have a pick until I think it's 137 is their first pick after the first round. They are really struggling. Yeah, 137, round 4. So, realistically, can they afford, they could afford to give away a fourth rounder or later for Baker Mayfield. But I really don't think they're going to go for a quarterback because that's an impact player that they might not get back if they go quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked, everyone's talked ad nauseum about Deshaun Watson, the recent year, the deal. Personally, I'm not a fan myself, but obviously an exceptional player. Is there anyone else, Ed, that we need to be looking at that's going to impact the draft, apart from the amazing prospects that we're going to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at loads of things. I mean, obviously the players that Sai and us have mentioned so far, like Debo and Baker, Jimmy Garoppolo could affect things. He's another quarterback who's on the trade block. The 49ers picked Trey Lance last year, gave a lot of draft capital up to pick him. He's got to start this year, otherwise it's going to be frankly embarrassing at this point if he doesn't. So you've got a £25 million quarterback, or dollar, should I say, quarterback sitting on the bench, which doesn't make any sense. So that'll be interesting to watch. Obviously, the prospects, as you said, what often happens in drafts is a wide receiver gets picked. Then a wide receiver needy team panics and moves up and takes a wide receiver. And then another team panics and moves up and takes a wide receiver because they see this run going. They think by the time it gets to us, the wide receivers are all going to be gone, and that's what we need. So you get runs on certain positions. So that's often something that affects it. And finally, as we're going to talk about a little bit, later on, a lot of teams have got a lot of picks in this draft in the first round. So there's been a recent trend of we can't wait for draft picks to develop and we don't even know whether they're going to be good players. So let's get proven commodities. Let's trade for NFL-worthy players. This is what the Rams did, won the Super Bowl. This is what the Bucs did, won the Super Bowl. And so what it's ended up with is a lot of teams without a first-round pick through incompetence, like the Bears, no offense, or...
I mean, it was uncalled for.
I'm not arguing. I'm going honest, I'm not arguing.
Or it's the Rams and Bucks and people like that who have won Super Bowls because they've traded all their picks away for players. Won Super Bowls, it's paid off, but it means they obviously don't have the picks. But other teams like the Jets, Saints, Eagles, Packers, Chiefs all have 2 picks. So they can all move up, move down, stay where they are. They can do loads of different things. Trade for players with those picks. They control the draft in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, the last couple of seasons, those teams have been won by strong defenses, the Rams and the Bucs, and I think a lot of teams in this draft are looking at that. But nevertheless, they say it is a strong wide receiver draft. I'm not convinced. I mean, is there a Jamar Chase in the prospects side?
I mean, Jameson Williams is probably the one with the highest ceiling. He's coming off an ACL tear, though, tore it in the championship game. So he's probably not going to be ready until, September, October at the earliest. And then, it takes a lot of people a long time to get back from an ACL tear. People say, oh, you're back on the field. It doesn't mean you're playing at, top, football form. So he's probably the only one I would say is probably got that ceiling to get there. But at the same point, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a strong draft in terms of, top-end talent. Maybe like you say with edge rusher, that you probably, or some of the tackles that you're probably looking at, quite a few of them going in the top 10. But it's more the fact with the wide receivers that it's so strong. It's such a deep depth try saying that again. Deep depth.
Say it 5 times fast.
Pool in terms of just how many. I mean, you probably could get a starting wide receiver in the 5th round. Which seems to be the case a lot more these days. Years ago, you were looking probably outside the first 2 rounds. You were exceedingly lucky if you picked a guy who was ever going to be able to, produce for you consistently and it would be maybe they fell because of character concerns and stuff. But now, literally, yeah. I mean, Darnell Mooney from the Bears, who's now our only wide receiver, seemingly, he is, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. He was picked in the 5th round, so he never even had 1,000 yards in college. So, there is that talent in the later rounds now. And I think that also affects people in terms of be like, well, I'll pick some of these positions later because I could get a guy who's 3/4 as good in round 4. So I think that will also have an effect on the draft going forward.
Yeah, I won't propose to be a knowledge of the 262 picks, that are going, but from what I understand, between 30 and 90, there's a massive amount of value. 2nd round, 3rd round, and yeah, the Chicago Bears. I mean, one of the worst wide receiver corps in the league. Darnell Mooney, Byron Pringle, Equinemius St. Brown. I mean, you just got these amazing players. Listen,
Great name.
We're not as good either. That's the Pats. This is obviously the opening night of the draft tomorrow. We actually talked about San Francisco, who won't have an opening round pick for the first time since 1996. I was watching the Euros back then. So, I mean, that's a long, long time. And like you say, a lot of effort for Trey Lance, and they still got Jimmy G on. There's so many narratives. Now, before we put on the clock, have we got any other pre-draft jitters or things we want to get off our chest? Or do we want to talk about just how much we love Goodell? What do you want to say at this point, Ed?
Well, I think we've covered everything, really. I mean, obviously just looking forward to getting started. And I'm really interested to see whether anyone's sort of drafts have changed around, because obviously we've all shared mock drafts or, I think this player's going to go here or there. This guy's going to fall. These guys are going to trade up. So obviously we've all had a bit of time since we chatted about that to sort of ruminate on that. And it'll be interesting to see where everyone ends up.
Well, it absolutely will. Sai, any final words before you are under pressure like a GM?
So I suppose we should probably talk about how we think this draft will go. So what the plan is. So for anyone who's been, watching or listening to live mock drafts on, on any podcasting, I'm not gonna advertise anybody. Just advertise that. Shut down cover Wednesday pod. But yeah, like in terms of anyone else who's how these things work. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it in turns. We're going to do a coin toss. As I said, I've got a nickel. No, not a nickel. Damn it! I keep thinking it's a nickel. Terrible. I truly should be watching American football. I can't even get the right coin.
Is it one penny?
It's a quarter. I was just saying Nickelback off air as well. Damn. But yeah. So what we'll do is take it in turns. So we're going to create the draft order with a coin toss. Then we're going to take turns. We're going to announce the pick, talk about the draft needs of each player, of each team, and then kind of, as Ed said, ruminate about who we think is going to be the guy that goes there. This is who we think will go there. So we're not doing what we think should go there. We're doing what we think that team will do. So according to their needs, according to the GMs or what they favor or whatever, whether it's tall players, short players, whatever, that's what we'll be doing. So this isn't necessarily our thoughts. So when Trayvon Walker goes far too high, it's not because we think Trayvon Walker is the best player in the draft or whatever. It's because we think that there's just too much draft buzz about him at the moment and we can't put him any lower. That's how we'll do this. Anything else before we go on? No, I think that's about it, really.
Listen, I think we are ready. I like your signposting there. Yes, you can see from the format of this that we are running the mock draft simulator alongside your beautiful faces. We are basically going to be putting together a shutdown collective collaborative draft. At the end of this, we will be able to post this draft on Twitter. It will be a collection, mostly Sai and Ed, because I think the names that I say might get vetoed. Who knows? But I think together we'll come up with a clever 32. Disclaimer, what Ed said, not one of us knows the other host's picks at this point. So expect fireworks or hopefully just some friendly arguments. If you do want to play along with us tonight, then open up your own mock draft now. Head over to pff.com/mock. Super handy simulator that I've been doing a few this week. I've probably done 15 already. Some were a bit wild, I'll be honest. Ed, Simon, how many times do you think you've changed your mock draft this week?
3 or 4.
Oh, Ed's feeling confident. I like it. Okay, so Sai, it's your time. You're the man. You have to decide the running order, good sir, with your nickel.
So
Quarter.
I'll be nice to you two, and I will let one of you two go first. So if one of you wants to call heads and tails, and I will all
Ed,
tails, not
Ed.
heads and tails. That would be cheating.
Head.
Heads. I believe this might be, if I know my American history, this is George Jetson. But yeah, let's carry on. So Ed said head. Oh, I did a terrible coin toss. Oh, that's going to be online forever. Terrible coin toss. And it is tails. So Ben, you are going first. So Ed, you and I play for second and third because I really don't want to go third because it would make me very sad.
Okay, now if you are looking at this stream right now, it's pretty handy because it's pretty obvious who I'm going to go first. I'm fairly sure it's the name in the bottom right hand corner already. Listen, I mean, I watched a video of this guy with his family talking about hitting 26 bench reps. I think he beat his dad's record. The way he was talking was the normal kind of confidence and swagger you expect from an elite sports person. You see it outside of NFL across all world sports, especially in soccer as well. He's a leader already. He's got that arrogant edge, but I think he's intelligent. I think he is absolutely ready for NFL. And I think he's the best prospect in the draft, and that's Aiden Hutchinson out of Michigan. I don't see... There's been loads of rumours of, people going up the draft. I've heard all the names, Trayvon, Evan Neal, Thibodeau even, all the way up. But listen, it's going to be Aiden Hutchinson tomorrow. Simon, riposte me.
I don't know if it is. I think, and I mean, that's fine. This is the purpose of a mock draft. This is almost like a simulation of what may happen. We are not oracles. There's no trades from any of us as well. It's important to say. Yeah. So we won't be saying, and now the Saints are trading up. As much as I'd love to cheat and give myself to a good team when they trade up, I can't. I will just have to deal with it, whoever I get to do. I have a sneaky suspicion it's going to be Trayvon Walker. Hutchinson is a guy who has very, very short arms for the position. Bulky is very likes long arm defenders. I don't think it's going to be a tackle. I think that's what Peterson wants, but I don't actually think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to go edge, but I think it's going to be Trayvon Walker. I think Bulky's going to get his way and he's going to pull a massive shock and go Trayvon Walker. But your pick is very valid. And I think most people are still saying that. But I believe the odds are now starting to creep up in Trayvon Walker's favour. Yeah,
Ed, is it simply just a case of which the best edge is that Jacksonville will take? Or is it not that close?
I mean, it is really down to which edge rusher they think is the best. They're both very talented. Aiden Hutchinson's probably more reliable. Trayvon Walker's probably got a higher ceiling. So do you take the boom or bust, or do you take the reliable player? And when I say reliable player, that's not a sort of veiled insult to Aiden Hutchinson. He is an incredibly good player, but he is that bit safer. The only other option that really goes number one, apart from quarterback, is tackle. But they've just re-signed Cam Robinson, 3 years, $54 million today. So they've got that out of the way. So it's definitely not going to be a tackle. There's other really good players like Sauce Gardner, but no one's taken a corner number one. So it's Trayvon Walker, Aiden Hutchinson, Thibodeau as a massive outsider, but I've got Aiden Hutchinson personally.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do have Aiden Hutchinson. If he did drop to second, I mean, he's from Detroit, he'd stay local, so there is maybe that, but I just don't think you pass on Aiden Hutchinson, and he is going in as the draft, Jacksonville Jaguars first pick. Click away. Now, are we going in clockwise order, good Sir Ed?
Well, I think what we'll do, why don't we coin toss it again?
I think we could just run through round and round, because that coin's going to get a lot of work.
Well, no, because it's only going to be, we're only doing it this time, and then the order is set, Ben. So you're picking number 4, you're picking number 7, you're picking number...
Oh, you know what I like? What we're doing here. You are on the
there you
ball
go.
side,
That's how
honestly.
it-
You were
so-
made for YouTube lives. You've got that beautiful background. You've got your quarters building up. You're going to be.
awful blinds. that were
Tell
here
you
when I
what, you
moved in
keep
that
saving
I've not
those
bothered to
quarters.
change.
You'll be able to buy Twitter soon.
The
Sai,
sad thing is those blinds
Yeah,
were white.
Elon.
yeah, you're gonna have
right.
to pick your own though here. So you're gonna have to be fair. I mean, the YouTube viewers are
Alright.
gonna have to accept this.
Okay, so Ed, heads or tails? This is for second.
I'm staying with heads.
Heads. Ah!
I knew it. I knew it was gonna happen. Timestamp.
I was waiting for that first time. I was waiting.
Okay, timestamp. This is 39 minutes. We're gonna get that on repeat. That's a gift.
live telly, right?
That's a
It's
gift.
because,
Man.
it's because the first one was so bad that I had to make up for it by going OTT. And
Absolutely
flipped it onto
fantastic.
the floor. If you're happy to accept the validity of the coin toss, Ed, it was heads.
Okay.
So you will pick second for
Good stuff.
Detroit, which means I get bloody Carolina Panthers and pick number 6.
Okay. So Detroit Lions pick number 2. Much maligned franchise for a few years now. Lots of questions to look quarterback, but I'm not going there. It's too early for this draft anyway. Take a quarterback. They also have pick 32, so they can always potentially take a quarterback there. Aiden Hutchinson's gone, which is disappointing. I would look to take him, but it does make my pick a little bit of a formality to an extent. I'm going to take Trevor Walker, edge out of Georgia. Like we said before, it's pretty much a coin toss between these two. So whichever isn't taken number 1 is probably taken number 2. So it's quite a straightforward pick. Again, it's a bit early for the other positions, so it's really edge rusher, tackle, or edge pass rusher. An edge pass rusher, a tackle, or quarterback. They're not taking a quarterback. Jared Goff's going to probably hang around for another year, unless they take one at 32. Edge rusher gives them some meat in the middle, but also some attitude. Detroit needs attitude. That's what Dan Campbell wants in Detroit. He wants attitude, and I think he will get the most out of Trevor Walker.
Yeah, maybe they need more than attitude, to be honest, to win. I've got Trayvon Walker. I only wrote 2 things on Trayvon Walker because I was that confident, and it's basically aggressive edge. Lions will take him second if Aiden goes first. You obviously had him as first, so you've got some answers.
Well, it's not who I thought would go. It's not who I want to go first. It's who I think will go first. But there is also newfound rumours, and this is lying season, I know, but there are newfound rumours that Thibodeau is of interest to the Lions because they love the high ceiling, which would be crazy. If Hutchinson actually slipped out the top 2 picks, that would be crazy considering how long he's been up there. But I think Trayvon Walker, because of his traits and everything else like that, his ceiling is very, very high. And his floor isn't low in terms of, I mean, he was a good run defender at Georgia. He just never asked to rush the passer enough because they had these absolute superstars at D tackle. So, I'm quite happy with Trayvon Walker going second. I don't think any of us would have him going second in our mocks if it was what we would do. But it seems to be he's the flavour of the moment. So, cool.
Absolutely amazing. Trayvon Walker out of Georgia is going in. Okay. We have to find all these people on the thingy. There he is, Trayvon Walker draft.
It's going to get really difficult later on. Some of these guys are like in the 60th pick. On
Yeah, I've got the search. I've got the search bar, but you should be able to see this on your YouTube screens. So it's basically it's with you, Sai. You've got your what a beautiful team, the Houston Texans.
So, which is actually you probably see on the mock draft simulator at the bottom there. You actually see that their needs are highlighted as everywhere. Now they seem particularly happy with the idea of sticking with Davis Mills at quarterback. So, I mean, it's too early for the quarterbacks anyway, but I think it's probably a position they wouldn't go for this year. But who knows? Everyone gets surprised. In this thing, this is what makes it so compelling, is that people will just jump out and go, we picked him instead. So I had Thibodeau in this position in several of my mock drafts we've done on Shutdown Cover for weeks, and then I started to change. And the reason I started to change was because they got Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, really good player, but I don't think he's going to be there forever. They lost Marcus Cannon on the right side. So I think they might go tackle, and then it becomes about who they like at offensive tackle. So you've got a choice between Evan Neal, Charles Cross, or Ikemen Ekwonu. Evan Neal has played right tackle for Alabama, not Georgia, and Charles Cross has also played right tackle. Ekwonu hasn't played much right tackle, but production-wise, he was the best tackle in this draft last season. So I'm going to go with Ekwonu. They've gone best player, available. They'll make do with the fact they've got 2 franchise left tackles and push one of them over to the right side. So that's where I'm going. So I've gone Ikemen Ekwonu to Houston Texans.
Okay, I mean, listen, I actually have Ekwonu as best tackle in class. I sort of see how important Tristan Wirfs was last year. Proved how important he was when he wasn't there. And Ekwonu basically is a Mark II. He will go in the first 5 picks. I'm almost no doubt. I did have him going down in pick 5 to the Giants, actually. So it'd be interesting to see how I change that around. If he drops as far as the Seahawks at 9, Seattle will be loving that, I'm sure. But I can't argue, man. I think this guy he's amazing. 320 pounds, big offensive tackle. Ed, riposte.
It's hard to in some ways because Ekwonu is, like you've both just said, a fantastic player. I think the only way I would riposte is the fact that, yes, best player available, but not biggest need. Houston has 3,000 needs on their football team. Even NFL.com posted and it said what they needed, and it just said everything. And the one thing they pretty much got sorted is a tackle. Amongst probably 3 or 4 other starting players. And so I could argue that if they can't trade down, they need to take a player who is not at a position that is already a semi-strength, perhaps.
Who's playing right tackle, Ed? To answer me that. They have no right tackle.
Me.
It's the first time tonight we've gone me. The answer is me.
Reveal. But no, I think they can get a tackle in the 2nd, 3rd round. I had Thibodeau. I thought they could go for the highest ceiling guy and just unleash him. I think Lovie Smith would use him really well. But I don't dislike the pick. That would just be my only riposte if I had one. Is it the biggest need on a team that has a lot of needs?
Yeah, you see, I've got Thibodeau much further down, but annoyingly, I listened to him on a podcast recently, and I love the guy. I think he's absolutely fantastic, and I think he should be going in the first 3 picks. But this is Sai's pick. This is how it is going to work today, unless we're absolutely wild. So, Ekwonu, I actually had Source himself going at pick 3 to the Texans, but that's good because it leaves Source on the roster. Ikemen Ekwonu from North Carolina State. You are a Texans player.
Sorry about that.
How unfortunate.
No, you can't apologise to these players. They're all right. They're all having a good career and a good wage packet, which means I get the New York Jets. I love the New York Jets because they always finish behind us. And again, I hope they do this season. The Jets need defensive players, okay? It's incredibly simple. Their defense is woeful. 32nd in yards against, 30th in passing yards against, 29th in rushing yards against, 32nd in points against. It does not make for good reading. The clear option is Kayvon Thibodeau. I just see it in every draft along with today's suggestions. I'm also seeing they're favouring Jermaine Johnson, but Benny is not going that way. I have them taking a receiver with their first of the top 10 picks. Who is the first wide receiver off the board in tonight's draft? Jameson Williams of Alabama. I'm basically going back to last season when people went, are they going to get a defender for Burrows? And they were like, no, we're going to give you Jamar Chase, and got them all the way to the show. I think the exact same thing is going to be happening. Maybe not the exact same thing, but in similar vein. I think the Jets are going to go super aggressive, not going to pass on Jameson Williams, best wide receiver in the draft, and again, take him as high as 4. And it's going to be, I think, a bit of a surprise on the night. Sai?
I'm astonished. I mean, I actually have in my mock and penciled in for number 10 at the moment Jameson Williams. So obviously, if you really love a player, you take him when you can. You don't necessarily wait for him to fall, because that's how you end up getting gazumped by someone else. But wow, I mean, that's super aggressive. And I mean, in my opinion, he is wide receiver 1. He is the best wide receiver to have. But that injury, I don't know. I've got a bet on him to be the top wide receiver, but it's good odds because that injury means he's not going to come back. But team like the Jets, that's, they need speed. They need a true number 1 wide receiver. And they are a team that, let's be honest, even if they have a really good draft, they're not competing this year, especially in the stacked AFC. So, maybe take a guy that is going to take a little bit of a while to come back, but when he does, it's going to be absolute gangbusters.
Yeah, I was struggling to sort of put wide receivers in. I feel like I've undervalued them massively. I think it was maybe in the hope, Ed, that they were going to drop to the Patriots, but I don't think it's going to happen here. Jameson Williams, what do you think?
No, if we want one of those receivers, we are going to have to trade up. In some ways, I love the pick. I love the ambition of it. I love the best player available. I love the comparison to Burrow and the Bengals, going getting them a big play wide receiver. The problem is I don't think Zach Wilson is Joe Burrow, but I still really like it. I like Si's point about they're not going to compete this year, so the injury isn't perhaps as big of a deal. But at the same time, I have to say I'd absolutely fall out my seat if this happens on draft night, I have to say. Just because I think the injury, taking a player that high with a serious injury is just such a risk. If it's a quarterback, obviously it's different, but otherwise it's such a risk. And in some ways, I love the pick. I'd fall out my seat in excitement. And I'd love the pick, but at the same time, I would be absolutely shocked.
Now, I'm hoping there's going to be some shocks, and maybe there'll be, massive trades into the first couple of picks. Me, I'm hoping. But at this point, we have me coming in with wide receiver Jameson, Williams going 4th on the board, real high, and both of you against this. Now, do we then go to a general consensus and say they must take a defensive player, or because it's my pick, we are locking wide receiver Williams in? Oh, this is exciting. Okay, I might have to just type Williams. He's going to be way down. Here he is.
I'd say I bet some NFL teams wish it was done by consensus. They'd end up with a better draft. But
this is honestly, I'm super excited about this. Jameson Williams, you, my friend, are going to be living the New York life.
Could have been a number 10, but why not a number 4? Crazy.
Okay, so Ed, you're on the clock. Oh, the Giants. What a terrible football team.
Oh, the New York Football Giants, the bane of Tom Brady. Not that we're bitter. This is a really simple pick. Really simple. The Giants have struggled for years in one area. As a team, they've struggled for a few years, which, in all due respect, is unusual. The Giants have been a traditionally solid, if not good team for decades. And recently they've really struggled, basically post Eli Manning. They've really struggled. And one area in particular, their offensive line has been an absolute sieve for years. And they've tried to bring in high-priced free agents. They've tried to draft players. They drafted Andrew Thomas last year. He was terrible to start with and came on as the year went on. He now looks like he might be serviceable. So sort of like Si with the Texans, I'm going to get him a running mate to play at tackle. I'm going to take Evan Neal out of Alabama. Again, 50-50 who's really better out of him, Ekwonu or Neal. The consensus seems to be Ekwonu by 51%, 49%. It seems really close. So I think the Giants managed to stay safe here, don't have to move up, don't have to move around. Get a tackle who should bookend immediately their offensive line, and they should then reinforce throughout the draft until they've got a basically new offensive line to go forward with this year. Protect Daniel Jones, give Daniel Jones a chance to prove he can be a franchise quarterback, and if not, then you can dip back into the quarterback market next year when there is a better quarterback draft coming out.
Is Evan Neal the best, second best to go?
Lineman.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of people who like Charles Cross. He's another darling, but they're wondering if he's a media darling, of the pundits and actually not of the teams. But he does extensively. He's played a lot of right tackle as well, which I think is of interest to teams that there's no adjustment period. I think is Andrew Thomas plays on the left, so it could be on the right. But Evan Neal's also played on the right. So it's who you like, really. Pick your poison, as it were. Evan Neal, king of the split leg box jump. So what more do you need?
Exactly. There you go. I had a Quonu go in there, obviously the tackle as well. So yeah, Evan Neal. That was nice and easy.
Yeah, it's not going to get easy now, is it?
Okay, Evan Neal out of Alabama, my friend. You are going again to the Big Smoke.
Is that actually its name?
I think so. No, Big Apple. Your London's the Big Smoke.
So London's the Big Smoke. Yeah.
Big Smoke was a character.
He could come to London.
Yeah,
Start a
listen,
franchise.
hopefully... in fact, I think the Giants do... No, do the Giants play in Germany this year? Oh, I can't remember the roster.
Bucks, I believe.
But okay, someone's coming,
we do.
coming over. Now, Panthers. You wanted the Panthers. I think you said, Si, actually, at the top of the show, you were like, Carolina Panthers,
looking
favourite team in the world. I want shocks here, Si. Give me your pick. You're on the clock.
I know. I like. We don't actually have a clock, so that would be good if we did. But
We've got a quarter, though.
So, two big issues. Now, I kind of talked about this before we started, but the two big issues for Carolina Panthers are, well, quarterback extensively. Let's be honest, Sam Darnold is barely serviceable. They are competing for their job. David Tepper, the owner, is a man of an advanced year. He's already basically said he doesn't want to rebuild. He wants them to be remotely successful, which puts them in a real bind. So you've either got to try it with Sam Darnold. You've got to hope you can trade back, get some more picks, and then pick a quarterback later on, or bite the bullet and just pick up one of these quarterbacks. So I would go Malik Willis because of the fact that he is probably the one with the highest ceiling. However, for the purposes of this, you've got coaching staff that are in dire need of someone who can come in early. I'm going to throw a bit of a curveball. First QB off the board, Kenny Pickett.
Oh, okay.
And I think he's like the third or fourth best quarterback in this draft, but he has a highish floor. He'll be able to come in and be serviceable, probably more serviceable than Darnold. Worries about his hand size. He has the smallest. He'd have the smallest hands ever for a QB. He is only kind of a 1 year wonder as well. So there is a lot of issues coming in, but I think they're just going to look at the fact that they just need to get someone in and hope for the best. So I've gone Kenny Pickett, and I won't be 100% surprised if this happens on draft day.
Ed, before I come in here, go straight in. What do you think?
Si's got a lot of affinity with Kenny Pickett because of the Small Hands Club, but
you saw what happened with the coin. If you had bigger hands, that would have stayed on the table.
I can't even throw it properly.
I quite like the pick. I think they've got to go quarterback. I think the idea of trying to sell Sam Darnold for another year with that team, because you've got to accept the team's going to be poor this year. It doesn't matter what they do in the draft. They can absolutely nail the draft. They're still going to be a poor team this year. Next year, they could then be awesome. But this year, they're still going to be poor. So you might as well take a quarterback and give your team some hope. Because as I also said, the coaching staff will be gone. 1,000,000%. If they don't take a quarterback and they run Sam Darnold out there, they are gone. Their jobs are gone. So unless the GM holds all the power and decides I'm going to take players for the future because I've got a contract for 3 or 4 years, I'm going to make the pick, then they've got to go quarterback. As I said, the choice is Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett plays now. Malik Willis gives you upside. And it kind of depends on what you want, because either could potentially save your job. As I said, Kenny Pickett can save your job because he actually starts. He actually looks decent. Malik Willis can save your job because he comes in about the 5th game after Sam Darnold's looked terrible and is exciting. He might throw turnovers. He might throw some wild throws into the stands, but he's exciting. He rips off some big runs, throws some deep bombs, and the crowd are kind of excited, and you can sell yourself for another year with the team. So I like the pick. Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis has to be the pick unless somehow, by some miracle, as Si mentioned at the beginning of the show, they get to move down and they can take someone later and accrue picks.
It's interesting, over the last 24 hours, all I've heard is Desmond Ridder going to be the first quarterback off the board, first quarterback, and you both here saying that it's between Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis. I had Malik Willis going to the Carolina Panthers. I think the consensus is they obviously going to go quarterback here. So yeah, I mean Kenny Pickett. What I've been seeing is generally sort of exquisite handles, really, really, really sort of accurate, but tiny hands. So I don't know, but we're gonna lock him in. He's on his way to the Panthers.
I did actually think about Desmond Ridder. I actually think he is another one with a very, very high floor, but I don't know if his popularity around the league is quite as much as Pickett's. But I said we'll see tomorrow night.
Pickett from Pittsburgh to the Panthers. Okay, is it me on the clock? Woohoo! Fantastic. Okay. Oh, this is an easy one. Absolutely easy one. I was hoping I'd get this bad boy. The Giants, New York Giants. Yeah, they got pick 5 and 7. The Giants, they can do a lot. They're going to go, I think, with an athletic center, with what the NFL media are calling here the excellent intangibles. I love the word intangibles. I don't hear it for 12 months, and then the draft comes around. All I hear is the word intangibles. New York Giants are going to take Tyler Linderbaum at 7. Now, obviously, he's apparently a little bit small, strangely coming in under 300 pounds just. That in itself is frightening that that's considered small. However, Tyler Linderbaum, I like him a lot. People saying he could be in the top 10. I've definitely backed him in the top 10. The Giants taking him at 7. Ed, I got head shakes from both of you. Ed, I'll come to you first. Tyler Linderbaum at 7.
It's a good fit. He fits their play style. He fits their scheme. He fits a need. So in all those ways, it makes sense. I just don't know if the value's there that high. In a lot of ways, he is quite a polished player, and he does fit in their scheme quite nicely. So I don't think it'd be a huge shock. I don't think it'd be quite the same as Jameson Williams. I think if they took him, a couple of eyebrows would be raised, but nothing major. I just wonder whether you could. Well, I think basically they would be trying hard to trade back and take this pick, which I know we can't do. So we're not doing trades, but I think they would try and trade back really hard if this is their guy, because a lot of people have got him available lots later. I'm just looking at my latest mock draft. I've got him going at 23 to the Cardinals. I'm not saying, obviously, I'm not the draft guru, but I'm just saying I think late teens, early 20s is his average, I'd say, along the mock drafts I've seen. So it's a good pick for them. I don't know whether they would necessarily take him that early over some of the other players available.
Yeah,
Also,
I mean, maybe that is a bit of a reach. No, maybe it is a bit of a reach side. Go forth.
I mean, it's in terms of actual player ability, I would probably say he is one of the best players. If you look at some of his film and stuff, he is awesome,
amazing.
But he is small. He does have it's like 10 in the 10% like size arms. He's very, very short arms for the position because of his size as well. He can only play center, and yeah, he is relegated to just a zone blocking scheme. So you've got the Giants picking 2 O-line, in their first 2 picks. Possibly a bit too rich, but I mean, at the same point, it's repairing a big weakness, and for whatever reason, they have faith in Daniel Jones, and therefore, you've got to keep him, on his feet and chucking bombs downfield, hopefully. So, interesting pick. It's not where I would have gone, but at the same point, he is an awesome, awesome player. But as Ed said as well, I actually have him falling out of the first round, not because I don't think he's awesome, but because I struggle to find. With the value of how centers are not valued in the league in terms of in the draft, they usually drop a little bit. But also, some of those other issues, his size, his scheme fit, means that he falls, very, very low down. As Ed said, teens to 20s. But I've got him out the first round just because of those issues I've already explained.
Why are centers not respected in the draft? You mentioned there. Why do you not see that? I mean, it's literally a pivotal role. You're in front of the quarterback. I mean, you're literally right there in the center. It's in the title. Why is that not valued? Why is that not bam first off the board? This guy looks to business. His tapes look amazing. He's under 300 pounds, but I mean, if he's got quick feet and a good brain, and he's patient and effective, that can be enough, surely. Why are centers undervalued?
It's partly because of a lot of guards can play center.
Okay.
But a lot of centers can't play guard. So there's not that versatility because centre is usually a bit smaller, and they feel you need someone in the middle who's a guard who's a bit bigger and a bit chunky. Because as a centre, like Linderbaum's just going to like snap the ball and kind of go, try and get to the next level because that's what a zone blocking scheme does. So for that regard, yeah, that's kind of the reason I see really, and the fact that so you can kind of convert centres semi-regularly by guards. So that's kind of the way I see it. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one to explain. I like the position, and to a certain extent, as long as it's not something like punter or kicker or special teams guy, to a certain extent, maybe teams should think more about just getting the best players in and not necessarily worry about, we should only get him at pick 20, not pick 16 or something. So, but yeah, it's kind of the reason that I believe. That's the reason anyway.
Yeah, absolutely interesting. We've obviously not said that we're going to do trades on here because I think it keeps it easy, keeps it exciting. That's fine. There could be all sorts of trades here and there. Are Giants the most likely to trade out one of these picks, Ed?
They're definitely one of the favourites. If you're talking about early picks, obviously later on, as I said, there's lots of
5 or 7
teams. But yeah, I mean, early on, I think the Jets are going to pick at 4. There's too many good players to move around. Jags, Lions, Texans aren't going to find trade partners for those picks because the cost would be way too high. The Panthers basically have to take a quarterback, so I don't think they're moving. The Giants, perhaps the Seahawks. They have quite a lot of needs and not a ton of picks. If they can go from 9 to 14. Accrue some picks maybe, but yeah, I mean, I think the Giants are the most likely probably.
Good stuff. I'll put him in. Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa. New York. This New York Live's getting a lot of these top players already. Unbelievable. Now we are going to the Atlanta Falcons. Whatever happened to the Atlanta Falcons in that beautiful stadium? It was Kyle Pitts last year at 4, if I'm right. But here they are at 8, and it's your pick, Ed.
It is, and like you said, Kyle Pitts last year, and he was a great find.
Brilliant.
And hopefully they all can keep going. I want to start with a quote, and a wise man once said, "It doesn't matter whether you win by an inch or a mile, winning's winning." And I've got that quote in for somebody.
Name the film.
Brokeback Mountain.
Listen,
and he will appreciate that.
Yeah, I love it.
And the reason I bring that up is because the Falcons this year are not going to win by an inch or a mile. They're just not going to win. It's going to be a terrible year. And because of that, they might as well reset. As Si said rightly earlier, with Carolina, because their coaching staff could get fired, and because they have got at least some pieces, they could go Sam Darnold, pick players to help, or take a quarterback. The Falcons actually have a coaching staff that are actually pretty solid. Arthur Smith's going to get at least this year, probably another year. GM the same. So they've actually got some stability. So they need to take the long view. They have the time to take the long view. So I'm going to take a quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, which I have to say I've seen no one else go for. So I'm going out on a limb on this. And I'm taking Matt Corral from Mississippi at 8 to the Atlanta Falcons. And I'll give you my reasoning behind that. So obviously, as I said, the coaching staff and GM are in a position where they can look to the future. The quarterback class this year isn't the best, but if you don't dip your toe in the water, then you know nothing good's going to come of it, is it? Point. If you don't take a quarterback, you ain't going to do any good. If he's rubbish next year, take another quarterback and just keep taking a quarterback until it comes out. But also because I genuinely think he's the best quarterback in this draft. He's
what?
I do. I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. I also think he's the second most pro-ready after Kenny Pickett. I think he is used to running an offense that is suited to the NFL. The NFL is all running quarterbacks. And I'm not talking about running quarterbacks who can't throw. I mean quarterbacks who can run and throw. He runs the run-pass option really well. That is a really good option for the Falcons because it offers misdirection. It lets Arthur Smith get creative. And it means he can make plays with his legs and arm on a roster that doesn't have a lot of playmakers. He has 2 playmakers next year. He has Kyle Pitts and the receiver over. I've forgotten his name. He's played for the Patriots. Cordero Patterson. They have Cordero Patterson. Yeah. And they're the only 2 playmakers he has. So he has to make plays. If he's just throwing it all the time, he's going to get murdered. But this guy's actually straight line speed. Straight line speed is faster than Malik Willis. He might not be a better runner than Malik Willis. He might not shred as many tackles, but he is a faster runner. So I think he's pretty pro ready. I think he can run the RPOs. He can run with his legs. He is a good leader, commands the room. That's what the Falcons need. They've just lost Matt Ryan. They need a leader to walk in there and take over, not someone who's going to tippy-toe round for half of the year, red-shirted. They need someone who's going to go straight in, take command. Their other option is to take a player and just sit in purgatory, going nowhere. If they had 2 or 3 first-round picks, like the Philadelphia Eagles or the Saints, I might change my mind because I might say they can set up the team for a quarterback next year.
Yeah.
But they can't. The team next year will still be poor. So they might as well take the quarterback now, get on with it, and the future can be now.
Wow. Listen, I've got Matt Corral down as my 5th quarterback, but what do I know? I thought, from what I heard today, Ridder was just guaranteed first off the board, and Kenny Pickett wasn't even in the first round. So, Cy, I don't know what to say. I'm not entirely convinced that Matt Corral is the best. Cy, what do you make of it?
I mean, with Ed's reasoning, I mean, you could have gone Malik Willis. He's still on the board. He's got the highest ceiling of all of them. He's probably the most natural thrower. Speed-wise, probably Desmond Ridder's the fastest. He ran a 4.5 at the combine. Matt Corral, he's like Marmite, really. For those of you listening in other countries, find something where some people like and some people don't. I can't think of an example. But yeah, he's a kind of a guy that some people really, really like. If you listen to like someone like Chris Sims, he's pretty good. I mean, a former quarterback himself. He's got a pretty good history of that sort of stuff. Apart from Kellen Mond last year, which he mentioned before. But he loves the guy, and he thinks he's really, really good. But other people say he's in a very, very limited offense, very, very RPO heavy, held onto the ball too long, some durability concerns. But, I mean, that's the thing. You've got these two sides of the fence. So I'm happy. I had Corral going at number 32 in my last mock. But, Atlanta, they might as well take a swing at a quarterback and try and revolve that way. But I mean, other aims, probably, wide receiver. Their wide receiver core is a dreadful, dreadful mess. Probably the worst in the league, apart from the Patriots. So all in all, you didn't respond when I said Patriots. Okay,
No, I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's that bad. Atlanta Falcons, Zacchaeus, Bird, and Hodge. I'll be honest with you, I don't know any of those 3 players.
Bird played for the Bears last year. I think he got about 200 yards in the season, so it's not looking good. So, but yeah, I think you've got to take for a swing and see if some other wide receivers get cut or something, and you can make that wide receiver core look a little bit better down the line anyway.
Absolutely wonderful. I'm smiling because I got a score through non-related to the draft, but we can talk about that on a different podcast. Matt Corral is going in from Mississippi to Atlanta. What a beautiful stadium. I've always wanted to go and visit that stadium. Matt Corral, you are in at pick number 8. I didn't even have him going in the first round. What do I know? Cy, you get all the best teams. Seattle Seahawks.
I should have just
you're on the clock.
Dick about it.
You're on the
I should
clock.
have been a real dick and been like, no, I want to go first. I want the easy. I've got this shitty. Oh God, we're not swearing. I have the ones of limited, easy picks. So Seattle. I've put WTF are they doing? So they have paid these safeties. They've got 2 wide receivers, being paid decent money. Lockett, who is basically untradeable because his contract is so horrible. Please look it up on Over the Cap if you don't believe me. And they've got needs all over the park. But they've got Pete Carroll, who is 700 years old and is probably not up for a rebuild. So I really don't know what they're doing. For the purposes of this, I'm torn now because Malik Willis is still available. You could have a year of Locke getting beaten up by all the teams around him. But it wasn't my original thought. I was probably going to go with tackle. Got Charles Cross still on the table. Edge. You've still got Kayvon Thibodeau.
Thibodeau.
And oh my God, Sauce Gardner's still there as well. Oh my God, this draft is crazy. None of this is going to happen at all. So literally, if you're Seattle, I've got Stingley as well. They literally could go whatever they want. Kayvon Thibodeau plays in Oregon, not too far from Oregon to Seattle. I think they just need to go best player available. I don't see them picking a quarterback unless the one they really love falls to their lap or they trade back in at the end of the first round. I'm going to go Kayvon Thibodeau, Oregon, edge rusher. to Seattle at 9, and I think that's amazing value for them, and that's just worked out perfectly for them.
That is insane value. I do think you went with the safe pick. I think you could have gone crazy there and taken Malik, but I like that. That's the smart pick.
Hunter.
If Kayvon Thibodeau, I actually had him going at 12 and then got shouted at for it. But if he's dropping down at 9, Seattle Seahawks surely are going, oh wow, this is wonderful. If they can get Thibodeau or Evan Neal, perhaps even there, that would have worked. But yeah, I think they'd be so happy. Thibodeau, I've 27 reps on the bench press. I listened to him on the Around the NFL podcast literally this morning. He's perfect draft potential for me. Why should we draft these players that are ready-made for the NFL? He's kind of interesting. He's got this raw talent, but he's actually busy. He's wonderfully intelligent. He's got loads of ideas and things outside of NFL. He's confident. And the way he was talking, I was instantly, wow, I like this guy. I think you could go as high as the top 3. If he's 9, I think I'd be surprised now. I'm certain to go in the first round, obviously. What does this mean? Phone booth guard, Ed. That's what I've heard him being called, a phone booth guard. And I thought I'm going to ask you guys, because there's a few kind of NFL vernaculars that I don't know. Maybe we'll put it on the chat and get people to dive in.
Yeah, I have to say that is
maybe it's
something. I didn't actually know what code you were talking about then. For a second.
Phone booth guard.
What is this code? Yeah, no, to be fair, it's one I haven't heard very often. I imagine it's something to do with his aggressive streak, I think, and his ability to perhaps get skinny between offensive linemen, but that's a guess. Do you want me to look it up while we're going?
No, I mean, listen, we can have a look, but I think this guy's absolutely amazing. And yeah, do you like that pick at 9, Ed?
I'm just going to go to Sai because I think he's got an answer for us. Is he?
Yeah. Phone booth guard. That is a guard who plays, basically got good footwork and they can work within a phone booth, because that is what it is. When you're in the center of the line as a guard, like, on the O-line, it is like a phone booth. There isn't the movement. Like if you're a tackle, you've got that free form kind of ability to be a bit more mobile. As a guard, you are in that phone booth, if you know what I mean. You've basically got this line in front of you. For anyone on the podcast, I'm holding my hands out about less than a meter apart. So that's basically what I believe it is. So I don't know why Kayvon Thibodeau, an edge rusher, has been.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah,
unless it's talking about him fighting in a phone booth with a guy, because I mean he does have that ability to kind of rush inside and play kind of a bit more D tackle. Or just hang out in phone booths.
You're putting the hands on the screen. You've been frozen a little bit for a while now on my screen, Si, so I don't know. We can't even see your hands here. All I can see is this beautiful smiling face. Thibodeau is... I'd be surprised if he doesn't drop out of the top 10. What a top player. And side movements back with us again for that pick. Let's get him in. Thibodeau. I might just go with Kayvon. There he is, from Oregon, Seattle. Wow, the Seattle Kraken did not do too well this year. Different sport. Let's move on. My pick. Why do I always get the New York teams? Again, we're going to New York. I have them taken. I'm going straight into it. I'm taking them. They're taking a cornerback. They're taking Trent McDuffie, the talented musician, the man himself. They're taking Trent McDuffie. Listen, we're getting some laughs, but he's slightly undersized cornerback. If Sauce is still on the board, it's going to have to be him, surely. But
he is on the board. They're all on the board.
Are we absolutely in consensus here that there's no way in hell Sauce, John McDuffie would be taken over Sauce? Can we push Sauce out there?
There's
Sauce,
no
billion
way. Sauce will be gone by pick 4 or 5.
Right, okay, listen. So I'm going to say 100% cornerback. I'm going to go with I had Sauce going way. I mean, I have Sauce going 3. Some people are having first pick off the board. I'm going for Sauce.
So why are you putting Trent McDuffie at number 10?
I've got so many notes down here. I've got Trent McDuffie because he's a second cornerback off, I think.
We've only had one so far.
Derek Stingley Jr. I can probably ahead of him as well. I have 3. Basically, you've put these quarterbacks in my top 10. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, no, absolutely fantastic. Sauce, Sai, talk about Sauce. I don't even know why he's called Sauce. How good is this player, and why has he been picked possibly for the number one prospect?
He is. I mean, probably a lot of people would say that Derek Stingley is the number one, but he's had some injuries. Liz Frank injury, the fractured dislocation of his foot. He also had an amazing freshman year, and then his sophomore and junior years weren't as good. I mean, probably tied in with the fact that LSU weren't very good. But Sauce, basically starred on that Cincinnati team. Giant of a man. He's 6'3", I think, but runs really quick, really smooth. Productive. I said that Cincinnati team was really, really good. That defense was awesome. So yeah, that's kind of the reasons I see about him being the number one in a lot of people's books. But yeah, maybe in another year, if Stingley had been 100% fit, then Stingley would definitely be number one on everyone's board. But yeah, Sauce kind of shoots up people's boards because of the fact that he has been healthy and he's been productive, and he is just, 6'3" for a cornerback is not common at all. That's really tall.
Yeah, I read an article saying he's got abnormal fluidity for such a huge cornerback, which is kind of dangerous. Did not give up a single touchdown this season in Cincinnati. Ed, yes, listen, Sauce. I've got Trent McDuffie as my third cornerback. Derek Stingley, I've been thrown all over the place. Sauce, would New York Jets be just over the moon if Ahmad Gardner was down at pick 10?
I mean, the New York football teams here are absolutely doing backflips.
Unbelievable.
They've both just stayed where they are and absolutely just won the draft without moving. Normally teams have to give up picks to win the draft. They've just sat still and won the draft. They would be doing absolute backflips to the podium if Sauce Gardner is still available. It's the way it's worked out, so we can't argue. It's the way our draft's worked out. But as we've all said, the chance of Sauce being there is zero. Pretty much, I think at this point there's a tiny chance, but I think they'd be exceptionally lucky, but exceptionally happy to get him. And the wide receiver run has not happened yet, so that's an interesting quirk as well so far.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all moving around, but lovely. Ahmad is in Cincinnati. New York, all of the Big Apple. We got it right this time. Ahmad Gardner. Man, we're flying through these picks. We're out of the top 10 now to the Washington. Who even knows what they're called now? We think the Commanders. Ed, you're on the clock.
Well, do you know what? You've given me a bit of a conundrum here because I'm 100% going wide receiver. 100%, but now I've got a conundrum because in all my mock drafts, literally all of them, by the time it's got to the Commanders, out of Garrett Wilson, Drake London, and
Chris Olave,
those three, there's only one left. So I've just taken the one that's left. But not so tonight. So a bit of a conundrum, really. Garrett Wilson is the more polished receiver, the better route runner. So that's tempting. However, they've got Terry McLaurin to do that. So I'm going to go Drake London, USC wide receiver. He's the bigger bodied guy, and I think this suits for a couple of reasons. Number one, as I said, Terry McLaurin can do the fancy route running. They need a big bodied guy, end zone, third and fourth down, jump balls, stuff like that. Also, it works because Carson Wentz is not the most accurate quarterback, but his arm is strong as hell. So what he needs is guys with big hands, big catch radius, which he's got, and someone who can take the ball and snag it in even when the pass isn't that accurate. So I think he suits really well there. The Commanders could go defense. The defense is normally the strength of their team, but I think the value is way too high to get Garrett Wilson or Drake London in this spot, and I think it'll improve their offense. They've lacked weapons for years. And they gave Carson Wentz, who they've just traded for, a decent chance to succeed. Because if he doesn't, yes, we all know it's a risk. Commanders fans know it's a risk to get Carson Wentz. They're not idiots. But they still were going to be disappointed if it doesn't work out because it's their team, obviously. And they traded a fair amount to get him. It wasn't just a fifth-round pick thrown away or anything like that. So they need to support him and hopefully make this experiment work for at least a couple of years before they can draft a successor. And Drake London, I think, goes a long way to completing that.
It's interesting how different the sort of starts of the draft drafts are. I've been thrown off there because I've got 3 cornerbacks gone already by this point. You've got wide receivers gone already by this point. So Drake London. I would say Zion Johnson, I thought, was basically the most nailed on pick of the draft. Local product. Washington had him in for a local pro day. Yeah. He'll probably go straight into starting roster at guard. I've actually put here, this is the one pick I have in the 32 for me is nailed on. I don't think there's anywhere else the Washington Commanders go. I think they love this guy. But Drake London, wide receiver, Riposte.
I love it. That's the guy I would have picked. I've had him mocked to them on a variety of different occasions. I think it's what they need. Yeah, they've got McLaurin. He's the speed. He's the fluid guy. You just need someone who's big. Like I said, in the old times, he would have been just automatically classified as a tight end because he is huge. He's like 6'4", the giant. But I think he'll be, he's what they need. Wentz isn't the most accurate necessarily. And yeah, that gives him a better chance because they said he's not a 50-50 guy. He's a 90-10 guy. He's that level of deep, contested catch kind of guy. So I love the pick. Definitely who I would go with, even with the board falling the way it has. It's definitely who I would go with.
Yeah, absolutely. Wide receiver Drake London, PFF. You are their number 11 pick. Washington Commanders. Whether they'll be the Commanders for long, who knows? I'm sure they will. Not a fan of the name, if I'm honest. Minnesota Vikings. Again, just a beautiful pick, Si.
Yeah. It is great, yeah. They're in a weird situation themselves in that they seem to think that they're competing, and there's a few teams in the NFC that you're kind of like, you're really not good enough to do that much. You might make the wild card, but in the NFC, how terrible it is that much of an achievement? And I think the Vikings, the Saints, and a few others, Eagles probably are those kind of sides that might just qualify, by default because some of the other teams, like my beloved Bears, are going to be absolutely dreadful. The Vikings, they have needs. They have need at guard, need at center, but there's obviously no centers left now. Edge, you could go Jermaine Johnson. He's been mocked by me on a lot of my mocks to the Vikings because there's been an early run on the rushers. But there's a guy who's falling a little bit, who's taken my eye, and he's an area that they kind of need to improve. Coming off an injury, but Vikings don't really have many good options at cornerback. They've got Patrick Peterson, who, like Pete Carroll, is 500 million years old, and therefore they need to improve in that area in the secondary. So I've gone for them picking Derek Stingley at number 12, who could be, if he was healthy and maybe tried a bit more, the best player in this draft going forward. So I think it's another guy that if he falls to 12, the Vikings will be licking their lips at. So I've gone for number 12, Derek Stingley, LSU to Minnesota.
Yeah, a few fallers here. I think Derek Stingley, multiple injuries over the last few years. He ran 4.37, 40-yard. His first attempt, literally just dropped in, ran it. Went a bit slow on the second attempt. I think he's the best available. Is he the best cornerback? I don't know. Possibly one, possibly two. He's one of the best. He's definitely going to go in the first round of the draft, I think. But yeah, dropping all the way to 12. Ed, Minnesota Vikings. Would they be happy with that? You're the Minnesota Vikings fan base right now. How are you feeling? You're on mute there, Ed.
Sorry, my fault.
No,
the offense is basically ready to roll.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of talent, lots of high-end talent at that. Probably need a bit of a boost on the O-line, but you can do that in the 4th, 5th rounds potentially. What they need is boosts on defense, and historically, actually, that's been their strength. The last couple of years, it's waned as they've let players go. They also now have an offensive-minded coach. So again, you need to reinforce the defense because it's got to be able to play on its own without the head coach's necessary full attention. Derek Stingley was going to be a top 10 pick, nailed on by all accounts, a complete rival for Sauce, potentially even a better player according to some. Obviously had an injury, has put him down. 12, I think, still good value though. Even with the injury, I think the Vikings would be very happy to stay there and take him. They've got a big need at corner. They can put him opposite Patrick Peterson. He can learn from him. Obviously, a perennial Pro Bowler, and yeah, it's a nice pickup for them.
Kayvon Thibodeau at 9, Derek Stingley Jr. at 12. I feels like there's a few fallers. Maybe we're drafting wild here, but I like all these picks. I like what we're seeing. Derek Stingley Jr. You're going to Minnesota. Drafted away. Now it is. Is it my pick again?
It is.
How beautiful. I have the Houston Texans. I'm pretty glad I had this pick, and I'm going to tell you why. It's the first safety of the round to be taken. Kyle Hamilton at Notre Dame, 6'4", 220 pound. This guy is wildly attractive, and I'm going to tell you a reason why I say that. Because he has got endorsements lining up. This guy is going to be a superstar. The way he is, big frame, the way he holds himself. I think he's ready-made for the NFL. He had a basketball scholarship. Sometimes I find when people are cross-sports, multi-sport talents, and have sporting brains, they do well at the elite level. How often do you see that where NFL players could have been in basketball, could have been lacrosse, etc., etc. First and only safety taken in round 1 I have. Kyle Hamilton, Houston Texans. Ed?
Yeah, fantastic pick. I originally, in my sort of first few drafts, had him number 4 to the Jets.
Wow.
I think that much of him. I think he's one of the few players who breaks the safety lack of value mold. And what I mean by that is the safety position is not valued in the modern NFL. Partly rightly, partly wrongly. We won't go into that right now. But he breaks that mold, and he could be a top 10 pick, even a top 5 pick. And I still think that could happen on draft night. But if you're the Texans and he slides all the way to 13, you are absolutely loving life. Much like Sauce going to the Jets. Did he go to the Jets in the end?
We put Sauce. Yeah, Sauce at the Jets, yeah.
You know, they're doing backflips to the podium. Houston have, again, stayed where they are in our draft and picked up 2 absolutely quality players that will help them going forward, be cornerstones of the franchise. And he's just a complete Swiss Army knife. He can do absolutely everything to a high level. And I think it's a great pick.
Sai, what do you think?
Love it. He's the guy I picked at number 13. He's been going there for the last few mock drafts I've done. He's a really good player. He's a giant kind of guy. Can move sideline to sideline. Probably will play a lot of box safety at the next level because his speed isn't amazing. He's a 4.6 or around a 4.7 at his pro day. But still a really, really good player. And yeah, it will only probably drop because of the fact that some people are put off by the speed, but probably more likely, as Ed said, because of the safety value in terms of the draft. You don't get safeties going because I think he was like number 2 on lots of mocks going in the early stages, and people are like,
yeah,
we can't put a safety at 2. So yeah, I think 13 is a natural place for him. I think, as said, Texans BPA, best player available, snap up. One of probably the top 5 or 6 players in the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. So they've got Ikem Ekwonu and Kyle Hamilton. Definitely going to win these drafts. These absolutely amazing. Okay, Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame. You are going to Houston. Drafted. Ed, straight on the clock. Baltimore Ravens. This is interesting. I'm really eager to see who you pick, why you pick it. Baltimore Ravens, interesting team for many reasons.
Yeah, there's 2 players that I'm choosing between. Ooh. And it's really tough, man. It's really tough. This is where you put yourself in the boots of the GMs and you just think, oh man, this is a tough job. I'm going to go Devontae Wyatt, Georgia, interior defensive lineman. I think he's got a lot of upside. I think that's part of the reason I want to play him. Part of the reason also is because the center of that Baltimore defensive line is getting old. They've still got good players like Calais Campbell. They re-signed him, but they're getting on. They need young blood in there. He's also got pass rushing upside, and they need pass rush help. In most of my early drafts, I had Trent McDuffie going here because Sauce and Derek Stingley were gone, and they need extra corners because, firstly, you need lots of corners in the modern NFL, but also because a lot of their corners are quite injury prone, and that's what bit them last year. They've got great corners. Their secondary is loaded. It's just they're injury prone, but I've gone, do you know what? They're not going to get bitten twice. They're not the LA Chargers who are literally bitten every year. So we're going to take Devontae Wyatt, reinforce that defensive line, play tough football, which is what Baltimore are used to doing. Even play a 3-man front. and just play Wyatt, Campbell, and someone else up front, and then roam with lots of secondary, and hope that Devontae Wyatt and those guys can swallow the run, play lots of players in the secondary playing zone and man, and react to what the league is. The league is a passing league now. They got Joe Burrow in that division. It's a passing league. That's if you're going to beat the big boys in that AFC, you need to be able to stop the pass. Devontae Wyatt can help you there, but he can also gobble up the run.
Yeah, simple for me. I had Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia going there as well. There's absolutely no way. Trayvon Walker's obviously there at 14. Jordan Davis, maybe. I don't know who the better player is there.
I had Jermaine Johnson as the other person I was picking.
Okay.
He's gone in my latest mock draft number 7 to the Giants. I really like him, and I think he's shooting up the draft boards. Kind of, as Si said, a bit of a media darling. He's probably not a number 7.
Yeah.
He's probably a number 14, 15, about where we are. But that was the other player I was thinking about. But I think Bulmer liked that interior guy, so they've gone there.
Yeah, absolutely. Si, what happened to the Ravens? Obviously, I'm sort of 3-year veteran of NFL, slowly getting into it, and when I dived into the sport, it looked like it was going to be Lamar Jackson versus Patrick Mahomes for a decade. That's what I thought. That was what the narrative was. Didn't seem that way last year. Where are the Baltimore Ravens, and would they be happy with Devontae Wyatt?
I mean, Devontae Wyatt is a very, very good player. There's a few things coming out at the moment, and once again, this is lying season. We don't know about some previous domestic violence accusations or stuff that was done, a few years ago, but seems to have been an issue in his past. So if he does drop, that would be the reason. But I mean, yeah, effectively, let's be honest, it's pick whichever Georgia D tackle you like, really. I think they're very different players. I think Wyatt offers a little bit more pass rush. They both run exceedingly quickly. I think was it a 4.77 for Davis and a 4.76 for Wyatt. I mean, so for D tackles, I mean, there have been wide receivers who are running at that speed. So I mean, it's crazy. So I mean, yeah, they're both amazing players. Baltimore could really do with some help on that D line. It's where I've mocked. I went Davis in all my other mocks, but I mean, Wyatt's a really, really good pick. But yeah, for the Ravens, tough division, injuries. It all kind of just fell apart for them. Obviously, Lamar Jackson was out for literally like a third of the season overall in games missed. I mean, yeah, they got some able deputies in the meantime, but it's hard to come back from that. And let's be honest, the AFC is so competitive at the moment. So, hopefully we get the good Baltimore this year because they are a very, very good team and perennially at least relatively successful. So, I think by strengthening the D tackles, the D line will really, really help them moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is a lovely pick. Devontae Wyatt out of that insanely impressive Georgia side. Going to Baltimore, drafted. How exciting. Si. Oh, the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles have landed. Pick 15. Who are you taking?
Twice. I get them twice. This is the crazy part.
Yes, you do get Philadelphia Eagles twice.
So I was praying that Ed didn't take this guy because it's kind of who I've mocked to the Eagles moving forward. I think they have some areas they really need to get better on. D-line is one. I've got Fletcher Cox, who, is he's getting up in years, not really been the same player over the last few years. You've got needs help across the secondary. So you've got Darius Slay, who is 31. He's been good, but you probably need someone opposite him, like a CB2 that can kind of move into being CB1 moving forward. So those are kind of the two areas, and linebacker. But the Eagles never, ever take linebackers. So that's why I've steered clear of them in all of my mocks, apart from maybe the first one, because they just don't value the position. And maybe you could get like a Leo Chanel or someone like that in the second round, Quay Walker or someone. So maybe that's where they go. So for the purpose of this, I went Trent McDuffie, your CB3, who was drafted in the wrong position nearly. So he, really, really good player, slightly undersized, but plays big. Very, very, very productive. I think he allowed something like 37 yards on the season or something stupid. That was 111 yards in the whole season, which is crazy. So I think he's a really, really good player. And I was so glad that Ed passed up on him. And if I was an Eagles fan, I would be overjoyed to be able to pick up Trent McDuffie. Dangerous moving forwards because they don't really value cornerbacks regularly either. So a lot of talk about them getting a wide receiver. I don't think it's the big need that some of these other positions are. So I'm going for Trent McDuffie, Washington Huskies as my pick 15 to the Eagles.
Yeah, that's our third cornerbacks. That's Sauce, Derek Stingley Jr. and Trent McDuffie in that order, which I believe was the order I had it in originally before said cocklepad.
Yeah, I mean, a really good pick for them. They do need help at cornerback, and Trent McDuffie represents good value at that level. I've kind of been stubborn in my mock draft, and I had Devin Lloyd going to them, which as Sai rightly says, they never take linebackers. Sai is entirely right, but I've been stubborn about it to the point of just going, no, but they have to take a linebacker. They just have nothing at the linebacker level at all. And yes, the linebacker position, like safety, isn't as important as it used to be, but Devin Lloyd falling to them, he's just too good of a player. You've got to go outside your box sometimes. However, do I think Trent McDuffie's the more likely pick? Absolutely.
I mean, for me, though, surely that means that Devin Lloyd is going to be picked by Sai in 3 picks' time. It has to be. Surely the Eagles are taking him. Devin Lloyd, heaps of football IQ. Let's wait and see if he goes at pick 18. Trent McDuffie, cornerback. Where are you, PFF mock draft? Good Lord, there's people dropping. Draft Trent McDuffie. You are going to the Philadelphia Eagles. That puts Benny on the clock. New Orleans Saints, if I have this right. Now, we... Science Actually Explained said, some of these guys have fallen harder than Lucifer. If this actually happens, it would be amazing. Basically, we are dropping a few of these players down. I like what's happened here because this draft has fallen to me. The New Orleans Saints are taking Charles Cross. I think it's a match made in heaven. Let's be honest.
Why?
How is Charles Cross at the Saints at 16? I actually had them maybe trading up for him. He's that good. Is Charles Cross? Someone was saying top 5. I don't know. Anyway, the New Orleans Saints are taking him. Left tackle needed, I believe, heavily. I don't think they're taking a new quarterback. I think they're committed to Jameis Winston for the season, right? Or at least for 12 months. Obviously, the Saints need a left tackle. Charles Cross is a left tackle. Surely that's a no-brainer. Sai?
I love the pick. It's good you came to me first because I think Ed is now frantically looking up and down his big board to see who the Chargers are going to be picking up at 17. I love the pick. I think he's a really, really good player. Yeah, they lost Terran Armstead. I just don't know what they're doing. I just don't think the Saints are as good as they think they are. I don't think anyone is in love with themselves as much as the Saints are in love with themselves, to be honest. I mean, Winston come back off an ACL tear. Yes, he tore it early, so maybe he comes back all right. But there's never not enough proof that Jameis Winston is a franchise quarterback. Which means you're carrying on with a guy who isn't a franchise quarterback and you're trying to be competitive and you're just pushing all your money to the next year. And people said, oh, well, they eventually just didn't do it this year. Yes, they have. They owe like $20 million next year. And they haven't even signed their rookies yet. They are in serious trouble. So if I were them, I would be rebuilding. I would just be saying, screw it. We just got to rebuild and just do the best we can. But at the same point, it seems like, they're committed to trying their hardest to carrying on. And I think if that's the case, tackle is their big need. Apart from maybe wide receiver, tackle is their big need. And the fact that Charles Cross falls to them, I mean, yes, as you said, we thought that maybe they'd have to trade up to get him, but to actually get him at 16 is a wonderful value for what is a very talented player. Yeah,
this backs up the comments on YouTube that that's some fallers, Ed.
Well, you've made an enemy tonight, Ben. I'm not going to lie about it. I've had Charles Cross absolutely nailed on for the LA Chargers for about half an hour.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, it is a really good pick. As Sai said, it's pretty automatic if he gets to them. He's too talented to be being picked there, even though that's the way it's worked out. And that's how it often happens on draft night. There is always fallers.
Yeah.
Every single draft. Aaron Rodgers fell. Do you know what I mean?
When did Aaron Rodgers go off the board?
Was it like 25?
Yeah,
I can't, you know, it was,
I love hearing stories about players of that level of player dropping.
Supposed to be like top 10, and then he just kept falling. But I digress. There's always players that fall, and I thought Charles Cross was going to fall to me, and then he didn't. He's been snatched away at the last second, but it fits the Saints perfectly, and they had to replace Teron Armstead, who left in the off-season, and this does that exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Saints and the Eagles are going to get picks again very soon, so we might see something a little bit more explosive there. Charles Cross from Mississippi State, you are going to New Orleans, drafted. Ed, LA Chargers. What did they do now? They've just seen Charles Cross snatched, grasped out of their hands at the last moment. What are they going to do?
Well, luckily, Si said I was scrambling on my big board. I wasn't scrambling on my big board, thanks to my big board and my trusty highlighter, because when you're a primary school teacher, you have highlighters everywhere. And I'm going to take Trevor Penning for the Chargers. Another tackle. So a bit of a run lineman. This is what we said before the draft. This is what happens. One domino falls, and then everyone now starts scrambling for that position. Trevor Penning, I think, is a little undervalued. I think Charles Cross is a better player, so I think it is who the Saints would take. I think that's accurate, but I think Trevor Penning being picked around 20, which he is at 17, is perfectly acceptable for him. He's a good player, good tackle, and remember, he's going to start on the right side because they took Rashawn Slater last year, who had a fantastic season. Corey Linsley inside at centre, all-pro, all-world centre, and then now Trevor Penning on the right side. And finally, the Chargers might actually have a good offensive line that obviously will be able to protect Justin Herbert moving forward, which is obviously vital. And what I want the Chargers to not do is get enamored with a wide receiver, because who's still on the board? Garrett Wilson. And I worry the Chargers will go, oh yeah, let's get another wide receiver, which is what the Chiefs did. Chiefs kept building up weapon after weapon after weapon. It neglected the rest of their roster, and eventually it did bite them in the ass. And the Chargers have got to resist that temptation, take the tackle, protect Justin Herbert, because Justin Herbert, with the weapons he's got, will score 35 points a game. You just need to protect him, give him time.
That's interesting, because I do have Garrett Wilson. I fell into the wide receiver trap.
Fell into the trap.
You called me out. I actually did not have Trevor Penning going in the first round. I had actually Bernard Raymond ahead of him. So what do I know?
Bernard Raymond's good.
Yeah, so this is, I fell into the wide receiver trap, which is good because it leaves Garrett Wilson available for pick 21. We're going to come to that soon. Trevor Penning at the Chargers. Hi.
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem now. You're on the tier below now, and you need to work out their value. Trevor Penning, small school guy. He had some glaring issues that kind of showed up a little bit at the Senior Bowl. I think it's his off shoulder or something that he can get beat on pretty easy. But he's going to a place where they're going to be good. He'll be able to learn from what is the rest of the team is a very good O-line. So, a decent thing. And it is probably, if they have to not neglect this position, as Ed said, how often does an amazing tackle come on the market? Not often. It's usually if they do, it's either because they're old or they're injury prone or they've got attitude issues. It's never because they're just amazing and just can't afford them, because tackle is such an important position. So realistically, Chargers have to draft a tackle. And I think, if Charles Cross or one of the others is gone, you've got to go dip down to that tier 2. And then you've got to choose between Ryman, who's a bit older, also played at a small school, or Trevor Penning. So, I think the pick is good, and I think it kind of shores up their big glaring issue. And, wide receiver is something they could possibly improve in the next couple of rounds. Well, they actually haven't got a second round pick, but later on in the draft. But I don't think it's such a pressing need that they need to do it now.
Well, it's in. Trevor Penning is going to the LA Chargers out of Northern Iowa. Trevor Penning, you are drafted, my friend, which means we're back to your favourite team. I mean, all you're going to do tonight is pick Philadelphia Eagles players.
I'm doing the whole 7 rounds.
Si,
the whole thing.
Si, I'm glad you got these players because I was struggling here. So, Si, who've you got?
Well, luckily, I have this quite set in my mock draft who I think that they will take. So, as I said, they'll neglect linebacker. I'm not going Devin Lloyd, no matter how much you beg and plead for me to go Devin Lloyd. I think they need to improve on this D-line. I said about Fletcher Cox being old. Now, previously I had Wyatt going to them, but he's gone. So I've got to go the other side. and go for the other Georgia D lineman. And I'm going to go Jordan Davis, Georgia. Beast of a man. What's he, 6'6"? Played at 340. Will probably play a little bit under as he ran at the combine at 330 odd. So I think they might slim him down a little bit, but just, length for days. And just the next level of this Eagles team, and the next level of their defense, and their resurgence to being acceptable. So fly Eagles fly. I've gone for Jordan Davis.
Yeah, enormous defensive tackle. Good pass rusher. I had him actually going all the way down at the Bills, because the Bills, working hard. I think they were only a defense away from winning the Super Bowl. But yeah, there you go, Si. Philadelphia Eagles, no linebacker. What are you doing, Ed? Set him straight.
I would set him straight if I actually thought the Eagles were going to do that. if this was the mock draft of what we would do, I'd be all over him. But realistically, looking at the history, the Eagles don't take linebackers. So Sai is probably on the right track. I like the pick. Like you said, the defensive line that's been a strength for so long for Philadelphia is starting to get old. They need to replace the some of the interior players. Jordan Davis is a hell of a man. But as you said, Ben, I did have him going to the Bills. So I'm a bit upset by that, because that was set in stone for me, because I thought their pasty, we'll get to the Bills later to digress, but their pasty is really good. Was it first in the league last year? But their run D's a bit soft. And so getting Jordan Davis in there would have been just ideal. But he's gone now. We've got to accept this reality.
Yeah, I think one of the best free agencies from the Bills. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves with Von Miller there, but we'll get onto them at some point.
Yeah.
We're going to lock that in. Jordan Davis, big defensive line out of Georgia. You are going to the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm sorry, Jordan, you're there, drafted. Done and dusted. Now it's my pick, New Orleans Saints. Oh, I'm tricky. It's tricky here. So I have them taking a wide receiver, but. I don't know if they're going to take a quarterback or not. My issue here is Malik Willis is still on the board. He's still available. He was the QB1 I was taking. Drake London for me is up there. Maybe it's Garrett Wilson, Drake.
Garrett Wilson.
And Chris Olave. I think one of them's going to. Okay, you know what? We're going to go for it. We're going to take a QB, because they're only putting one season into Jameis Winston. They're committed, 22, 23. Yeah. They are going to look for the future, and that player is going to be Malik Willis. Put him in there. We're going QB. Man, there's some QBs in this opening draft from us. What are we doing? Malik Willis. Where did I have him originally going? I think I had him going as high as... I don't know. I think he had him going to Carolina Panthers at 6, to be honest. Okay, yeah, there you go. Malik Willis. I don't think it'll be Kenny Pickett. Obviously, he's already gone. I don't think it'll be Ridder, even though everyone's talking about him today. New Orleans Saints have got themselves a quarterback. Ed.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it is a need. Jameis Winston, as I said earlier, is not a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
And will continue to not be, probably through the rest of his career. The Saints have got to give up on this at some point. This is the year to do it. But they've decided they're going to go for the title again. I've been on record with Si on the podcast saying they have absolutely no chance of getting anywhere near a Super Bowl with the roster they have. So I don't know why they haven't given it up, but they haven't. So I like this pick. If it kind of goes contrary to what they seem to be doing this offseason. So I will throw that in there as like a bit of a pushback. It seems contrary to what they're actually doing. But I like the pick. Malik Willis slides all the way to you at 19. Oh. You count your lucky stars and you take him and you go, well, Jameis, you better kick some ass this year because he's going to be sitting right behind you. So never mind next year. He could come in this year and replace you. So, yeah, it's an interesting pick. It's not necessarily the way I think the Saints will go, but I think it makes some sense for them.
Yeah, we've seen again. I sort of liken it a little bit to San Fran in the way that they brought Trey Lance in, knowing that he was going to play that backup role and be prepped for the future. This is a perfect opportunity to prep Malik Willis for that 23-24 season. Understudy to Winston. Jameis, doesn't he have some injury problems as well? So I think a quarterback is a smart pick there. Can't believe a change from Drake London. Cy, am I crazy?
Well, actually, Drake London's gone, so he would. He would,
Drake
as much
London.
as he'd like to be.
It's Garrett Wilson.
Sorry, Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson.
Yeah. As much as Drake London would like to be rescued from Washington, but,
Sorry, yeah.
please take me. I don't mind. I'll change my mind. No, I love the pick. I think it's not their priority, but if a guy who might be number one on your board in the quarterback position falls. I mean, we don't know what the Saints' evaluation of these quarterbacks is, but if it is that is the case, then go for it. Yeah, pull the trigger. I mean, you can find wide receivers. I mean, yes, they don't have a particularly good wide receiver room. Michael Thomas, who knows if he's going to come back and be good. He's also on a horrendous contract, and they do need wide receivers. But at the same point, maybe they can find one later in the draft with one of the picks, because they didn't, when they got this second first rounder, they didn't surrender all of their draft picks for this year. They've actually still got a little bit of ammunition. So yeah, maybe they go wide receiver in the third or fourth round, or even the second. I think actually it's the third pick they gave away this year, the third round pick. So they might still have a second. So yeah, I think there's still good value in wide receivers there. So I love the pick. Got to think for the future. Saints, you've got to stop deluding yourselves. Think for the future.
It's an intelligent pick, and yeah, they do say there is wide receivers deep in this draft. Malik Willis out of Liberty, QB, are going to New Orleans drafted. I'm actually excited that Cy has got pick 21. So Ed, we're going to come to you now for pick 20. Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, the neutral party picking at 21, I think, is appropriate.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's worked brilliantly. All down to that quarter that got slung off the table an hour ago.
That horrific coin toss. Pittsburgh Steelers at 20. Do you know what? I've had so many spanners thrown in my mock drafts here. Again, 19, because it's going to take Malik Willis for the Steelers, give them a quarterback for the future. I don't think Mitch Trubisky is that guy. I think he's a nice bridge guy. And, I mean for a couple of years, not even necessarily 1 year. You could keep him for a couple of years, potentially. I think he's got some upside and, he can run the ball a bit. But Malik Willis is now gone. This is, again, as I say, the world we live in. I have so many options, man. The best linebacker on the board still there. Pittsburgh loves its linebackers. They need a tackle. Bernard Raymond's still there. They pass rushers. Jermaine Johnson opposite Watt would be amazing. I've got so many options, but I can't see a world, especially as Juju Smith-Schuster's just left, that Garrett Wilson's sitting there and Pittsburgh don't pull the trigger.
Okay.
I just can't see that world. You're talking about franchises that are happy. If Pittsburgh stay where they are and Garrett Wilson falls to them, they'd be falling out their seat. And I'd love to let him slide one more pick so Cy can pick him for the Patriots. But you can't do that. You've got to be honest. And the honest answer is they would absolutely snap up Garrett Wilson in a second. Like I say, especially as Juju's just left. They've got some weapons there, but not loads. They can get Garrett. They can get some more weapons later in the draft as well, because as we've mentioned many times, it's a deep wide receiver draft. No tight ends off the board yet, even though it's a poor tight end draft. But I'm just saying they'll be available in the second and third round. And then next year, in the deeper quarterback draft, you take your quarterback, and Pittsburgh could be relevant again within a year or two.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's worth mentioning, obviously, Dwayne Haskins, terrible news. The Steelers did look like they possibly needed a quarterback, but I like you've gone with wide receivers. I'm kind of gutted because it came a pick before where I wanted him to go. But Garrett Wilson, this guy looks fun, unpolished, but one of the top wide receivers in the draft. He finished the season, get this, 371 yards, 6 touchdowns in the last 3 games. If he carries that form on, he's a wide receiver 1, no? I don't think any of the wide receivers in this draft are at the level of Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase was electric to watch last season. To be honest, who is he? I think he's top 5 wide receivers in the league. What do you think of this? Garrett Wilson, are Pittsburgh Steelers fans going wild?
Yeah, I had a look at Steelers wide receiver chart. It's not overly impressive. Yes, they've got a couple of... Deontay Johnson's pretty decent. Chase Claypool has that ability to be a game breaker. It didn't show it consistently enough last year, probably partly with injuries, partly because Ben Roethlisberger was throwing the ball to him, and that was all over the show. But is he going to have the same problem with Trubisky? Let's find out. But yeah, Garrett Wilson, very, very good player. A lot of people's wide receiver one because he is, productive. Not the biggest, only 6 foot, but pretty fast. Good route runner. Really like the pick. Maybe if he was there at 21, I would have thought about picking him, but he's not now, so you'll have to see who I go for. But yeah, I like the pick. I think it's good need. Could still go QB, go Desmond Ridder.
Yeah.
To challenge against Trubisky, or if you're one of the very few people like Sam Howell, not many people have him going first round, but I think that's a really nice need, and sometimes you just have to go BPA, pick the best player available.
Yeah, absolutely. Signed in Garrett Wilson from Ohio State. You're going to Pittsburgh. Beautiful. I like this collaborative draft. We're starting to put some wonderful stuff together. Now we come to an interesting team because myself and Ed have interests, and it's good that Sai is picking on the clock with the New England Patriots. Sai.
So I think Ed knows where I'm going to go with this pick. I don't think they value wide receiver enough to take. Although I look at their wide receiver core and it's not great. I think Jacob Myers is okay. Nelson Aguilar can't consistently catch a ball.
Terrible.
Hunter Henry was pretty good at the tight end position last year, but Jono Smith was non-existent for large parts of it. I don't see them going wide receiver at all. I don't think Bill Belichick will go for that. I think he'll go somewhere else. And I think he likes a linebacker. So Devin Lloyd, Utah State, first linebacker off the board. He's gone in all of my mock drafts, I think, from pretty early on to New England. I think it's a need. Not necessarily the one they would usually go for. They like bigger linebackers, but as I think as Ed put so succinctly in our last podcast, it's a position, that they need to modernize themselves and really invest in and go for the kind of the new generation. And I think Devin Lloyd is good. He's decent in coverage, but he's awesome at like rushing the passer from that linebacker spot. And I think he's a really, really good player. And I think it's what New England need. If you look at their team, that's that big golfing chasm, I should say. Chasm.
Big old chasm.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's definitely where they go for this. So I would not be surprised at all if it's Devin Lloyd, 21 to the Patriots.
Yeah, listen, I don't think that's a wild pick. I mean, it's not very exciting. Some reports suggest he's got hip stiffness, whether that's even an issue at that level. I had him as a no-brainer pick for the Eagles, but seeing as you just refused to take a linebacker, I guess we will have to settle for Devin Lloyd. Ed, no wide receiver. Sad about that?
Purely with my Patriots fan hat on, not really. I think if Garrett, Drake, and Jameson are gone, Chris Olave, he's a good player. I could see him going, but I think if Devin Lloyd's there, that is a slam dunk pick. He's a top 15 player in the draft, slides to us to 21. We need linebackers. We've got rid of all our linebackers because they're too old and slow. They've been great players for us, but they're too old and slow. Bill Belichick loves a linebacker who can blitz, which as Si covered, he can, but he can also cover and go sideline to sideline. He is the modern Fred Warner, kind of linebacker for the modern NFL. And I think it'd be a great pick for New England.
Yeah, Devin Lloyd, Utah, we're locked in. I actually did have Chris Olave going from Ohio State, sort of buttery smooth, super quick, but like you say, we kind of destroy wide receivers, so maybe it's best we don't take him. Devin Lloyd, my man, going to Boston, drafted. Okay, Ben's on the clock. Who've I got? Green Bay Packers. What an exciting team. I feel like I got lucky, on this pick. That quarter is doing really well for me. I'll be honest with you, I'm looking at the wide receiving core. I didn't think Chris Olave would still be available, but I'm actually going to stick with my original pick because I don't know who's the better out of these. I'm going with Sky Moore. Green Bay need a wide receiver. They need a replacement for Devontae Adams, if that's even possible. People talking this draft up as having a kind of strong receiving talent, so I'm assuming Sky Moore is a strong lad. As far as I've seen, clips and what I've read, probably not going to go as high as Olave, maybe even not as high as George Pickens, but Sky Moore it is. I'm having him ahead of Chris Olave at 22, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him in first round mocks without doubt. I think this is probably not by much, but probably just about the highest I've seen him go. But I've seen him in plenty of mocks. I've seen him higher in the second as well. He obviously fulfills the need for Green Bay. They're desperate for weapons. To be honest, if I'm Green Bay and it fell right, I'd be happy to take 2 wide receivers in the first round. I don't think it will fall like that. By that, I mean, I don't think Chris Olave and Sky Moore, if one of the big 3 fell, or I could trade up a few picks, get one of the big 3, and then take Chris Olave or Sky Moore with the 28th pick that they've also got. I wouldn't be afraid of doing that. They need weapons desperately. I would have taken Chris Olave, but Sky Moore would be after him for me. So I don't think it's far off what I've got on my sheet. So yeah.
Interesting with that. Would you say if, for instance, Garrett Wilson dropped as far as 20 at the Pittsburgh Steelers, do you think Green Bay Packers are going, right, let's bump up a couple here, do what we can to get him?
I think sooner than that. Okay, I think even 16 to 18 they could be a player. Because they're at 22. Going to 16, 17 is not crazy. It's only 6 picks. You don't have to give up a first or second for that. You'd have to give up a few later picks, but I don't think you'd have to give up anything crazy for that. So I definitely think they could be players for one of the top 3 if they slide just a little bit.
Sai.
I like it. I like the pick in terms of it's a need. I would probably go Olave above Sky Moore, but there are a lot of people that are really, really like Sky Moore. Played at Western Michigan, so wasn't necessarily playing the highest standard, but he's a very good body catcher. He's very rapid. So yeah, a nice pick. I think it would be a shock on draft day if it happened, but at the same point, it's not as Ed said, it's not outlandish. It's definitely an area that he could go, especially if there's been a run on wide receivers. So a nice pick. Packers surprisingly have quite a few issues. I think they could go safety. I think they could go edge rusher, O-line. But I think wide receiver is their glaring need, especially with, Aaron Rodgers in the tail end of his career. So, hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully he busts like anything as a Bears fan. But, hopefully for the team's sake, he adds to what is a very, very poor wide receiver core.
There you go. Sky Moore is absolutely in from Western Michigan to the Green Bay Packers. I think they've got to take a wide receiver, at least with one of the picks. Like you say, maybe 2. Ed, you're on the clock here with the 23rd pick. My team pick last year for a Super Bowl run. I was a big fan of the Cardinals. What do you think they are going to do?
Well, the Cardinals desperately need to improve their offensive line. I don't think Kyler Murray is going anywhere. I think that's all posturing. I think both sides need each other. I don't think Kyler's good enough to force a trade. I think if Kyler forced a trade, he could end up in a place he doesn't want to. I don't know what people would necessarily give up for him. He's got a lot of talent. He's got a big future. He's very young. I'm just saying he's not the finished product. And there's rumors about what kind of guy he is. And on the flip side, the Arizona Cardinals can't afford to let him go because they've historically whiffed on quarterbacks. So I think they both need each other. So I think this is all contract posturing. It's going to get sorted out. So they need to improve the offensive line. They've got running backs. They've got wide receivers. They've got a tight end in Zach Ertz. Their defense, they need to replace Chandler Jones, but the defense has got teeth. But they need to protect Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray has been running for his life way too often. I did have Tyler Lindenbaum going there, but obviously he has been stolen a long, long time ago. So, but I have the perfect replacement, and that is Zion Johnson, guard from Boston College. He has the ability to go much higher than this. I've seen him in the top sort of 15 to 18, which actually probably is still a bit late for him on pure talent. But as I said, centers and guards do not get picked that early. So he slides to Arizona at 23. Arizona snaps someone's hand off and immediately improves the interior of their offensive line, which is absolutely crucial this year.
Yeah, Zion Johnson to the Arizona Cardinals. I had Zion Johnson going way back at 11. I'm just sure the Commanders are taking him. Zion Johnson, Sai, what do you make of that pick?
Absolutely love it. He's someone I've mocked to them anyway.
Okay.
My only qualm would be with the fact that we've seen Chris Olave fall a little bit. Will the Cardinals, who have literally no discipline, decide to get another wide receiver. You know what they're like. They lost Christian Kirk. They lost I think they re-signed AJ Green, didn't they? But you know what they're
Yes.
like. They've neglected their D line and their O line for years, and instead will pick up gadget players, or for some reason 7,000 linebackers like Zayvon Collins and who's the other one that they picked? Isaiah Simmons. So they picked back-to-back linebackers 2 years running. But yeah, I love the pick. It's who I think that they should go for, and hopefully they see sense and actually do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Zion Johnson off the board, drafted to Arizona. Zion Johnson. PFF is keeping up with us nicely. We're flying through these picks, perhaps. Dallas Cowboys at 24, Si. You're on the clock.
So another absolutely horrible one. So I have in the past mocked a bit of a surprise. So if you look everywhere, you see their needs tend to be O-line, D-line, or linebacker. So linebacker depends on where you see Micah Parsons playing. Is he playing off the edge, or is he going to play as a stand-up linebacker? If so, is he going to... then you don't need a linebacker. You've got Van Der Esch as well, although Van Der Esch is a one-year deal, not high money. He is a stopgap at best because of his injury issues. D-line, there's no one really jumping out at me at D-line at this moment. You could go Travis Jones, maybe. He might be a good pick. Real spacey, a real giant human being. But I don't think it's their biggest need. So you could go O-line. But you just stole Zion Johnson from me. So that really puts me on the back foot. So do I go Kenyon Green, who's another awesome guard, had some knee issues that might make him drop a little bit, but can play tackle as well in a pinch? Or shall I go what I think the Dallas Cowboys will do? And there's a lot of rumors that if Treylon Burks gets to 24 and there's no one else that they're absolutely in love with, they're going to go Treylon Burks. So, I'm going Treylon Burks out of the blue. Dallas Cowboys need a wide receiver because Michael Gallup recovering from it's an ACL tear, I believe. So he's not going to be ready for the beginning of the year, probably. So you're just relying on CeeDee Lamb. And you need another guy. And I think putting Treylon Burks in there, can play in the slot, can do some gadgety stuff. I think it adds another dimension to what was eventually a really, by the end of the year anyway, a bit of a predictable Dallas Cowboys offense. So I am going Treylon Burks, and you're going to have to really go down on the PFF mock simulator to find him. But
No, wait. I'm going to have to type his name in for that third round wide receiver. No, listen, I mean, I'm just amazed that we've taken 5 wide receivers off the board and Chris Olave's just still sat there, sad, on his floating chariot. I don't know if he's one of the prospects, but Ed, what do you make of that pick?
Yeah, I mean, classic Cowboys. I think again, if I was picking, it wouldn't be my pick. It wouldn't even be the position I would pick. They've got enough weapons in that offense. Their defense is still a sieve, pretty much. I said this going into last year, it was going to be a sieve. Turned out it was a sieve. Trevon Diggs is a very promising corner, and he makes a lot of picks, but he gives up a lot of yards. They need help on that defense, but this is classic Cowboys. Let's just keep throwing stuff at the offense and hope that somehow Dak Prescott becomes Patrick Mahomes and wins us the Super Bowl. They're going to be a good team. This will improve them, especially with the injuries that Si mentioned. But I don't see it as the pick they need.
There you go. So Treylon Burks, wide receivers. Let's find this player. Good Lord.
It's like 40-something on the PFF board, so good luck.
But not on Si's board.
No, it's not maybe what I would do. This is what I think they would
wide receiver out of Arkansas.
Cowboys board.
Treylon Burks is going to...
And Treylon Burks went to the same alma mater. So Jerry will not...
Oh, there you go.
Okay. I mean, listen, that puts me on the board of the Buffalo Bills. Oh, I didn't want the Buffalo Bills, my friends. There's so much pressure riding on this. And I had them taking Jordan Davis. Oh, it's the first big pick ruined forever. Surely that just means they're taking Travis Jones. I had him going a little bit later to the Kansas City Chiefs, in fact. But yes, Travis Jones to the Buffalo Bills at 25. I think the Bills know that they would have won the Super Bowl if they had that extra man in defense, that extra player in the defensive line. I think they were that close. Obviously, I think that's what they're going to focus on. Pick 25, Travis Jones, one of the sort of best three defensive lines, or one of the three that I think are going to go in the first round. Ed, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good position for them. I think one of their other needs is running back, but you're not likely to see a running back go in the first round, so that makes complete sense that you've avoided that. When we did a poll on Twitter, at @shutdowncover everyone, when we did a Twitter poll, it was pretty much unanimous that the Bills fans that voted wanted a wide receiver for Josh Allen to throw to continue to boost the offense. However, I agree with you in this position for two reasons. Firstly, I think the defensive player is just as important for them because Josh Allen can clearly score 1 billion points without another wide receiver.
Unbelievable.
But secondly, because the wide receivers that have gone, Chris Olave, I could see them taking him and I'd understand completely why. But it's not like Drake London's fallen to them somehow, confusingly. Like you said, second, third round, they can get a wide receiver to start opposite Stephon Diggs. So I like the move. I think it's a good pick.
Absolutely. Sai?
Yeah, I mean, it's what I've mocked in my previous mock, but since then I listened to a podcast where a guy from the Bills beat team basically said something along the lines of they do actually have quite a lot of depth in the D-line position. So maybe not, but then again, this is smoke again, because I mean, a lot of these guys that he was naming aren't world beaters, and I think Travis Jones has the ability to kind of be a really, really good player. If it were me, maybe I could see Chris Olave just because they got Davis, they got Stephon Diggs. I think he'd fit in quite well with that team. And maybe not the size that they'd want, but a very, very good alpha dog kind of player. Or maybe a Bruce Hall running back, or maybe a Kenneth Walker, depending on who your favorite is. So, and I mean, let's be honest, the Bills are a team that's so stacked that they could get away with doing that. But yeah, I think it's a good pick, and if they have a lot of options at that position, then maybe you start getting the old cutting scissors out, or trade them for picks later on if you can. So I think it's a good pick.
I would argue as well that beat writer, just quickly before we move on, that exactly what Sai said. They've got depth, but there isn't a ton of talent there. There's depth on the defensive line, but who's the scary defensive lineman? So I'd argue they still need more players.
Yeah, and let's be honest, the Buffalo Bills have to be one of the favourites for the Super Bowl next year. What a team. They gave us a show. The last season's playoffs were just...
beat down, mate.
Magic.
Beat down.
Magic to watch. If it's half as good as that this year, we'll be all as happy. Travis Jones from Connecticut. You are a Billio. Okay. Ed, Tennessee Titans. Who have you got? You're on the clock.
Yeah, I'm tempted to go Kenyon Green. To play guard for them, but potentially play tackle if he needs to, but play guard. I'm tempted to go Chris Olave because they've got AJ Brown, who might not even play, but let's assume they get that sorted out and he does play, although they haven't got much money, just as an aside. But I'm actually going to go Jermaine Johnson. I can't not, because their defensive line is already scary. You throw Jermaine Johnson in and it's a world-beating defensive line. Secondly, I have him on my mock draft at 7, and we're now at 26. So, the value for me is insane. And I just think it's a great fit on the team. I would completely 100% understand if they went Chris Olave. But I think Tannehill has been found out a little bit in the last year and a half. He's been found out to be, it's Derrick Henry and then play action. And if Derrick Henry isn't running at 5 yards a clip, the play action doesn't work and Tannehill can fall apart. So instead of reinforcing that issue, I think go defensive, get more pass rush, and make that defense a real strength for this team. I mean, the Bengals' offensive line was terrible, but they absolutely destroyed the Bengals' offensive line. So Jermaine Johnson adding to that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. That is one of the first for a while nailed on pick that I had going at 26 to the Titans. So that works well for me. Sai, any riposte?
No, I mean, it depends on if you like him or Karlaftis more, I guess. It's another big fall. We've had some big fallers now. I think Karlaftis, Olave is starting to fall a little bit. Jermaine Johnson, vaunted top 10 pick on a lot of boards, falling into the 20s, which is where he kind of started the year, really, as a possible pick. But no, I like it. I think you're just building on a strength. They've got some decent pass rush. Bud Dupree didn't really play well last year either. So bring in some competition, bring in the next generation, and maybe see if Bud Dupree can bounce back. And if not, maybe think about getting those old cutting scissors out. So yeah, I like the pick.
Jermaine Johnson, you are going from Florida State to the Tennessee Titans, drafted in at pick 26. Pick 27, Sai, you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've got the GOAT back for another year. What are they going to put alongside him? What are they going to do? You're on the clock.
I just have all the hard ones. I don't know why I was so gentlemanly and just let you go first. Bucks are another team. It's like, where can they improve? Like, I mean, maybe along their D line, but Travis Jones has gone, so now you're looking a bit further down. You're looking like a Logan Hall maybe, or someone like that. But that's quite deep down, a lot of big boards. Guard maybe, but a lot of like Tampa Bay writers are saying we do have a lot of options at guard. We don't necessarily have a household name, but we do have a lot of other players who can play there. They may not be up to that standard, but if there's a better player available, then don't go and get a guard. Get someone else that could improve us elsewhere. But the way it's fallen, I mean, you go Carl Loftus. I mean, I know they got Joe Tryon last year, so I don't know if that's a need. They've got the next generation there. Bernard Ryman, they don't really need a tackle, but I mean, I don't know. Donovan Smith's going to be around. I'm going a bit off the wall, I think. What I'm going to do, you could go safety as well, I guess. I'm going to go Tyler Smith, Tulsa, tackle. Rising up a lot of draft boards at the moment. Can play tackle a lot, but may start off as a guard. I think, you've got to think about the next generation on that O-line. Filling in some of those picks. Some of those older veterans. And I'm going Tyler Smith because I think he can play guard and then move out to tackle. And obviously you've got Wirfs on one side, but you do have to think about the other side as well. So I'm going to go Tyler Smith as my pick 27, and you're going for a guy who has a very, very high ceiling, but is a bit raw at the moment. But is there a team that can afford to do that? The Bucks definitely has to be one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Kansas City Chiefs would be a bit bummed that Tyler Smith goes that close to them. I think that's who they would have wanted. But you're absolutely right. Look at the impact of Wirfs on that team. If Tyler Smith could be half as good, then that would work very well. Ed, Tyler Smith to the Tampa Bay. If you're a Tampa Bay fan, you're probably in Wonderland anyway. Brady's back, so you don't really care about the draft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're in Wonderland pretty much, especially after the years Tampa Bay have had. Man, they must be living on cloud nine on permanent basis, really. I quite like the pick. It's a bit of as Sai kind of mentioned, it's a bit of a futures pick. Not saying he won't play, just it's a bit of a futures pick. I went for David Njoku, or Jarbo, however you want to say it, Michigan. He's an edge rusher because I felt like he's a little bit like that as well. He's a little bit of will play this year, but would really perhaps come into his own next year. But I felt like he could provide more pass rush for the Bucks and reinforce the strength, because I think the way I look at it is Brady's coming back to throw the ball. He's got all his receivers back, basically. Gronk's going to come back, let's be honest. It'll happen in a couple of months. He'll just miss the compulsory OTA stuff and voluntary OTA stuff and be back for the compulsories. And I think they know that they're going to pass on a lot of people. They know they're going to score 35 points a game. So they need to get to the other team's quarterback. The other team ain't going to be able to run the ball. So their defensive line's too good to run the ball on anyway, and their linebacker core. But also, they know that they're going to score a load of points. Their only weakness really is their secondary. And so you could either get a secondary player here. I had Andrew Booth potentially going here to reinforce that secondary. Or for me, you go pass rusher and negate the bad secondary that way by getting to the quarterback too much. But I like the pick, perfectly happy with it. But I'd have probably gone a bit more aggressive this year because you've got the GOAT for one more year. So you go a bit more aggressive this year.
I thought you had Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I was going left field. This is where I had the first and only tight end going in on the first round. I had them taking Trey McBride. I'm still going to stick by that. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will take that. I'm not entirely convinced the Gronk is going to come back from his Las Vegas beach party or wherever he is at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen, but hey, we've got Tom Brady in the league for another year, so that's just a pleasure. Tyler Smith, out of Tulsa, you are going to the champions of a couple of seasons back. Now, that puts me on the clock, right?
Benny's on the clock.
Wait a minute. I've got Green Bay Packers at 28 and Chris Olave's not been taken. This is going to be a tricky pick for me. Which way do I go? Now, I wanted
2 wide receivers. That would be crazy.
Absolutely, 100%. We can. And we're going to... There's no way Chris Olave is at 28 and you're going, no, we'll pass on him. They're taking him. Absolutely. The weapons at Rodgers' disposal. Chris Olave, I wanted him. I wanted his buttery, smooth, silky hands in New England. That was not going to happen because someone gave us Devin Lloyd. But yeah, I mean, Chris Olave.
He's buttery.
Chris Olave. They're all buttery. They're all bloody wonderful talents. But yeah, 28, Green Bay Packers. Chris Olave, he's finally off the board at 28. People have got him going a lot higher, Ed.
A lot higher, and probably rightly so, if I'm perfectly honest. But that's the way drafts happen. You know, all it takes is one team to take a player you don't expect, and then all of a sudden someone slides 8-10 picks because you didn't draft them to anyone else. You drafted them to this one team, and then they didn't take them, and that's it. And players slide all the way down. I do think it's lower than he'll actually go because wide receivers are a premium. As you said earlier, look what happened in Cincinnati last year. Look what happened at CD Lamb for the Cowboys, blah, 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 all the different examples. There's numerous examples around the league. So I do think he'll go higher, but great pickup for Green Bay. And I don't mind the double receiver pick. Like I said, I don't mind it. I think, honestly, if it falls this well for them, I wouldn't be shocked. If it doesn't and they go earlier like we think they will in reality, I don't think they'll go double receiver. They'll take a defensive player, get a bit more pass rush in there perhaps, but or cornerback perhaps to help in the secondary. That has been notoriously poor the last few years. But as it has fallen, double wide receiver, I don't think I'd argue with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Chances are Chris Olave wouldn't have slipped from that 22 spot that I gave them Sky Moore. This may just have been the same 2 picks the opposite way round in my head as well. I'd be happy with either. So, Sai, are you happy with Green Bay Packers taking 2 wide receivers? You didn't look happy.
I can't see it. I think Aaron Rodgers notoriously hates throwing to rookie wide receivers as well. But at the same point, I mean, imagine the Jets. Literally, they've never drafted a wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers in the first round, and then they pick 2 in the same draft. It'd be crazy. I mean, they do need it. I'd look at maybe some other value picks: George Karlaftis, Bernard Raymond, maybe Lewis Seen. Who else on there jumps out at me as another pick? Daxton Hill. Is Ajabo still on the board as well, I think, is he? Yeah, he is. So, I mean, there's quite a few guys that jump out. But, yeah, I mean, maybe that's what they should do, but I just can't see that being what they will do.
It is there. Chris Olave. Finally. Feels like he's been waiting. I bet he would have gotten nervous. Out of Ohio State, rather, you're going to Green Bay Packers. Must be an exciting place to go with their quarterback, that's for sure. Ed, Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, what a power team. What are they going to do? It felt like last season was a disappointment somehow. What are they going to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting as well because they've got a double pick. A lot of people have 2 picks in the first round. To have a double pick, so you know the next pick is guaranteed, is a really odd scenario. I'm not going to put any pressure on who's picking next to follow this plan.
Sorry, just to interrupt. Ed, just for the process of allowing us to smooth, do you want to do both picks?
There you go. Look at this.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was gonna say, I'm not gonna put any pressure on the person picking next to follow this formula, but I don't have to. It's me.
You are simulating the pressure that the Kansas City Chiefs are gonna have.
I'm slightly disappointed, admittedly, that I'm not doing Detroit, but I'll talk about that later. Okay. I'll take both picks. So I think at this point, the KC Chiefs look at this and go, do you know what? We can get these receivers in the second round. George Pickens is still on the board, Jahan Dotson still on the board, other guys like that. We can get them in the second and third round. The wide receivers were gone. If we wanted them, we would have to have traded up by now, which they could have. They could have jumped the Packers for a lave because the Packers would have probably said, oh, well, if someone gives us picks not to have a lave and we trade down, we'll take that. So probably that's what might have happened in reality. But where we are, I don't think the receivers are worth it at this point. I don't think the tight end Trey McBride or the running back Breece Hall are worth it. So I'm actually going to go defense with both picks. I've been on record as saying the Chiefs have been their Achilles heel for the last couple of years. They repeatedly pick up offensive players, do not pick up defensive players, and the defense repeatedly bites them in the ass. Although last year, the offense did start to do that as well. So they go double defense here. In whatever order you want, they take Andrew Booth, cornerback. A dire need for them, especially in that division. Look at the receivers in that division now. It is terrifying. And look at the quarterbacks thrown to those receivers in that division. It's absolutely terrifying. So to stop those offenses, they need a corner. So they take Andrew Booth. And they need a pass rusher. So they take David Njoku. George Karlaftis, I'm on the side of the people who think he's a bit more of the Marmite side than the good side. I think he's a high to mid second round guy. I think David Njoku's got more upside to him, has more twitch to him, and is a more explosive player. And now they've got him to pair with people like Chris Jones on that defensive line, and they get a bit faster. And then Andrew Booth can, at the very least, be their second corner, perhaps their starting corner. The number one, and can start to grapple with those wide receivers in that division.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I had them taking Travis Jones. Obviously, he didn't fall that far. And again, Tyler Smith, but he didn't fall that far. So yeah, Jarbo and Andrew Booth. I've not really got many complaints about that. And a double pick means things are changing around for the last two picks here. What do you think, Si? Final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I had it going on my last mock that they were going cornerback and an edge. I think that they need to improve defensively. I think the other teams in that league in that division are just too good. And yes, you need some weapons moving forwards offensively, but I think you also need to improve on that defense because it's too much of a sieve. And I think Ed's gone for two positions which are going to help. And Ajabo, obviously, come back from a torn Achilles. Is he going to be available? When is he going to be available? And how long is it going to take to get his explosion back? But, even if it takes half a season for him to get good, then, you can afford to do that. You're the Kansas City Chiefs. And, they need secondary help as well. So I like the picks. And it gives me an easier option going forwards for my picks. So, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I had Jalen Pittrat going ahead of Andrew Booth myself, but the Kansas City Chiefs, I've got a feeling they're going to come roaring back this season and be in contention. David Ajabo out of Michigan. I'm drafting you ahead of your cornerback brother going. So David Ajabo is at the Chiefs and Andrew Booth, a double draft pick. Andrew Booth at Clemson, you are there. Okay, we've got 2 on the clock. Now this means you are on Cincinnati Bengals and I am getting the Detroit Lions final pick. Si, go forth. You are on the clock.
So effectively, let's be perfectly honest, if we were doing trades, the last, 6 or 7 picks are probably all ones which are in the running for trade-ups from potential QB needy teams. I mean, the idea of a 5th-year option for these guys, Desmond Ridder's still on the board. Maybe you think, let's be honest, if you're going to draft quarterback, you should go for a 5-year, because at the end of the day, what does it... If they're not good in 4 years' time, you can decline that option. But if they're really, really good, then you have to pay them earlier. So effectively, I think we'll see a trade up. I don't think the price will be high this year because the quality of the players involved. And I think teams will mind trading down. However, obviously, we're not doing that. Bengals are standing pat. And, what some people would say is a potential top 15 talent, George Karlaftis, has fallen down the board to nearly the end of the first round. Yes, they've got Trey Hendrickson, Sam Hubbard. I mean, he's a decent kind of run defender kind of guy, but I don't think he's the same level as Karlaftis. Not the same level of explosion. Was a multi-sport player, was something like the under-16s water polo team or something for in Greece before he came to the United States. I think if he's there, not necessarily their biggest need. You could say maybe a guard or a cornerback or something like that might be bigger need. But come on, you've got George Karlaftis. So I'm going George Karlaftis from Purdue to help make this Bengals team even better.
Yeah, I think the Bengals are laughing if they get Karlaftis at 31. I think he's one of the players he's dropping right down. George, are you happy if you're a Bengals fan, Ed?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Loftus, like I said, is that Marmite kind of guy. He's either a top 10 player, in which case the Bengals are absolutely pissing themselves, or he's mid-round 2, in which case you're massively overpaid anyway. So it's actually quite safe at this point. But potentially he doesn't quite live up to expectations. But I like Sai's way of thinking, attacking on the offense, not literally, but in the sense of reinforcing a strength. This is what I want the Titans to do with Jermaine Johnson, a same sort of thing. We've already got a good defensive line. Let's make it even better. You're going to have to get after quarterbacks. You're going to have to chase down Lamar Jackson. You're going to have to chase around all these AFC quarterbacks from the West as well. You're going to have to do it in the playoffs. Why not get another pass rusher to boost that?
Absolutely exciting. George Karlaftis. He's finally gone. He's been sitting there, rank 10. Oh my Lord, he's going to the Bengals at pick 31. Now, I'm not doing this out of craziness. In fact, I'm going to show you my document after so you know I'm not lying. I had a quarterback going to Detroit Lions on the 32nd pick. I think it's a no-brainer they take a quarterback here. And I'm sorry, Desmond Ridder. It's Sam Howell out of North Carolina. Sam Howell will be taken by the Detroit Lions, pick number 32. You've heard it here first. Listen, I think he's got excellent arm strength. He's athletic. I think he's good in the pocket. I think he's going to be absolutely fantastic. I've got a feeling that Sam Howell is an NFL starter. I really do. I think he's that good straight away. All the talk today of Desmond Ridder has kind of swayed me, and I've been thinking, have I got this right? Have I got this wrong? Sam Howell is going pick 32 to the Detroit Lions. I've never believed it more. Ed, final riposte, final pick. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, quarterback makes a ton of sense for the reasons Si's already laid out. Because if there's a player they like, they've got a pick in 2 picks' time anyway. Yep. So as long as the Jags don't take someone, they're laughing anyway. So it makes sense. Get the 5th-year option. I had on mine, and I was primed to take him until I got my double pick, which I'm not sad about. But I had Desmond Ridder. But I mean, at this point, it is kind of you pick your quarterback and you run with him and you see what happens. And I think it makes a lot of sense. But I still wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if the Lions ignore quarterback, even though I took that. So I'm not bemoaning the pick. I took Desmond Ridder, 32, mock draft. I just think there's a lot of talent left, and I wouldn't be shocked if they went, look, we're not going to be brilliant next year, so we'll be in the running next year for one of those quarterbacks anyway. So why not take first-round talent at 2, first-round talent at 32, and let's be honest, first-round talent at the start of the second round. And then what a team transformation that could be. So no problem with the pick whatsoever, but I could see them going, let's just get loads of players.
Yeah, I mean, it's worked out easy for me that my last pick was on the board from the start. I think, based on what I've heard, the rhetoric I've heard today, Desmond Ridder not going in the first round would be one of the big shocks. So I don't know. Maybe that's just today's hyperbole. Sai, final riposte on the final pick. Somehow Detroit Lions rounding off an electric draft.
So 2 years ago, everyone would just assume that Sam Howell was going to be a first-round pick. He was really, really good, partly because, let's be honest, he had a really good team around him. Most of those guys went on to be drafted, leaving him with, less of a good team moving forward. And he was not good in 2021. This is an amazing stat. He had almost as many scrambles as he did thrown passes.
Wow.
That is insane. So that showed a guy that either didn't trust his teammates or couldn't go past his first read and just tucked the ball and ran whenever he could. So I'd be a little bit worried moving forward if that were me. But, I mean, once again, it's the same with like Stingley. You're looking at previous year's tape and thinking, this is the guy I want. I'll ignore all this other stuff because I believe this is the true representation of this player. So I think that could be the same with Sam Howell. And if he does go fourth or third best quarterback, I mean, it's not a crazy shock. I would be quite shocked about it, but I don't think it's insane to say. I think Desmond Ridder would be very hard done by to be the fifth guy, the guy looking in the second round. Had a pretty good year at Cincinnati. But just to kind of highlight as well before we go any further, a few really, really, really good players left on the board. Still got Bernard Raymond, Nakobe Dean. Let's be honest, those Lions have a really bad linebacker core. Lewis Seen. There's a few guys that jump out.
Boye Mafe.
Boye Mafe. So, there's a lot of ways they could go. Leo Chanel, Daxton Hill's still on the board.
Raymond, we've still not tackled Raymond, didn't go, did he?
Yeah, so all of them, there's some really, really good players that have dropped in our mock. But I think this has been a really good exercise. It's been really interesting. And let's be perfectly honest, people are going to be like, going, I can't believe this guy's dropped. This guy's not going to... Just through complete random 3 minds being pushed together to pick a draft together, maybe more accurate than any one individual mock draft. I mean, they do like this every year. They do like mock draft competitions. And you're something like, if you get 10 right, that's like amazing. That's almost fantastic levels of prediction. That's not very high. If you think that's less than 30%. 30%? Yeah.
You did the math. It was acceptable. We've got a primary school teacher we can go to for the answer here, Si.
I didn't want to get caned across the knuckles. All in all, this has been an amazing exercise. It's kind of shown how some guys can just fall.
Yeah, I would echo that actually, because sometimes when you're picking your own draft, you go, oh, well, he can't drop that far, and you'll just squeeze him in, you'll push him in. Whereas this way, we've all got our picks. We've been disappointed because a couple of those picks have gone, so we've had to go for alternatives in the position. A couple teams need a player, Eagles, linebacker, never got them. But we've obviously gone for it, and I think it kind of works with 3 minds. We're going to post this on the Shutdown Cover Twitter, and also last Wednesday of the week Twitter, and in the YouTube notes. This video should hopefully have saved. But Ed,
that'd be hilarious if it hasn't.
I'm fairly sure it does. Ed, what is your final view? Do you think this draft has blown minds, or do you think we've got some good picks on there?
I think there's a good mix in there. I think there's a lot of very sensible talk. There's the odd reach by probably all of us, not in a bad way. I think that's what the draft does. There's always reaches. Every single year there is reaches. Every single year there's quarterbacks taken too high. That is just the way the NFL rolls. And we're speaking about 3 minds. There's 32 minds. Well, 32 GMs. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot more minds on each team, but you know what I mean. There's 32 GM minds being put together, and everyone has different views, so who knows what will happen. It's been really good fun. Really enjoyed it. And, let's obviously see how our draft rocks out tomorrow and see how accurate we are. But like I say, it's been loads of fun, and no one knows. As you mentioned before, nobody knows. Si was mentioning it. I think the best run last year on NFL.com was about 14 correct.
Wow.
And I think the average was about 5. And that's in a more reliable draft. Listen, where everyone knew the first 3 picks, nailed on.
I'm hoping for 8 minimum. And I think that'll be a good target. So if we can get 8, it has been an absolute pleasure. We will have the full PFF mock draft. In fact, I've not even put the final pick in there. Let's finalize this pick. Sam Howell, my friend, you from North Carolina are getting drafted. Round 1 complete. I will load that round, load that draft, and send it on the various channels. Have you got any last words for our listeners? I'm sure at this point it's dropped from a few thousand to a few hundred given the time in the UK.
So join us obviously tomorrow for rounds 2 and 3. I'm joking. I think I might end up getting divorced if I ever did that. So, but no, it's said. It's been great fun. And my prediction for bonehead pick, I think you've got to look at the Arizona Cardinals. I think Steve Keim, hilarious boneheaded picks most years. So now that the Raiders have got new management, I don't think it'll be them. And someone's got to step up to the plate and be the most dumb GM. And I think it's going to be Steve Keim. So that's my bet for the day. But please listen, subscribe, beat us to death with comments on the YouTube page and wherever, and on our Twitter account, because it's good to have feedback. I think this has been an awesome exercise and I've really enjoyed it. And I want to thank you both for putting up with me for 2.5 hours.
Oh,
Jeez.
I know
That's been tough.
that's some commitment, Si. Si, Ed, thanks very much for joining us. We've been a shut down coverage, YouTube live. We've been talking at you for 2.5 hours about the draft, but the real thing kicks off tomorrow. Tune in. Give it a watch. It's going to be, if anything, we want to see these podiums in the middle of these iconic fountains. Surely someone's going to drop out of the first round. Our big shock was Desmond Ridder. Who's yours going to be? What's going to happen tomorrow? Make sure you tune in. All I have to say is thank you, be kind. I've been Ben.
I've been Simon.
And I've been Ed.
Take care.